Hello everybody, my name is Dave Jackson, he, him, and this is Tales from the Backlog, where each week I'm joined by a guest to deep dive a game from our backlogs. Today's game is Fear and Hunger, but a few things before we get into it. First of all, if this is your first time here, thank you for stopping by. Here's how spoilers work. If you have not played Fear and Hunger, we're not going to spoil the story, but we're also not going to spoil too many of those discoveries that you make along the way, because this is a game about learning. Almost above anything else. So fear not, we're not going to spoil that stuff. Check down in the show notes. There's a timestamp for when those spoilers are going to begin. And if you like what you hear, please consider supporting the show however you can. Tell a friend about it, leave a rating and review on the podcast apps, like and comment on YouTube. And if you like it enough that you want to support monetarily, patreon.com/realdavejackson is the place to do that. But I'm not here alone to talk about Fear and Hunger today. I need a fellow sicko here with me today. So I have Adam Bucceri with me, he, him. Adam is a game designer, an animator, podcaster, lots of stuff, very creative guy. And he always has an extra torch to share with a friend. Adam, welcome back.
Hello, thank you so much for having me again.
Of course. You are, it's been a minute since you were on the show, but you're a frequent guest in the archives of Tales from the Backlog. We did Shadow of the Colossus together, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Titanfall 2, and we've got a real, we've known each other for a while. I gotten to learn more and more about the types of games that you like. We've got a real Adam game on the show today.
I mean, it's, I feel like every time I come on the show, there's a little update on, my secondhand pride with your horror journey.
Yes.
As you started out not wanting anything to do with it. And now here we are at Fear and Hunger, which is just about maxing out the scale as far as distressing content. And we're going to be having a interesting conversation about a really weird game today.
Yes, for sure. And it's a different type of distressing. Distressing is definitely a word I would use. But different from some of those others. It's very different from Resident Evil 4, for example.
Very different.
Fear and Hunger is a game that kind of defies genre classification in a quick sentence, but I'm going to say survival horror RPG adventure game developed by Miro Haverinen. Hopefully I'm going to say that name right. And published by Happy Paintings for PC in 2018. And that is primarily a solo project. We talked a little bit about recording, about the kind of the myth of the solo developer. Miro Haverinen is listed in the credits, though, for graphics, music, writing, design, and everything. That is what the credits say, except for a few things. Some animations done by another person, a few songs, a few sound effects, some sound samples, stuff like that. So, like you said, about as close as we get to truly a solo game as far as we know.
Yeah. As far as scope for accomplishments by a single human being in the field of game development, this isn't quite Undertale, but it's not that far off to me. This is really dense and impressive, especially for solo work.
Yeah, absolutely. We have our quick pitches. If people don't know what Fear and Hunger is, I say it is part dungeon crawler, part survival horror, part RPG, all stress and pain. What would you say, Adam?
I've got two quick ones. One is tough, cruel, and unfair, just how I like it. Mm-hmm. Uncompromising in every sense.
Yes.
And my other more flippant one was, Amnesia the Bunker? You ever wished Amnesia the Bunker was a weird RPG Maker game that was somehow nastier, weirder, and also had terrible performance?
Very good. I played Fear and Hunger on PC. It took me 13 hours to beat. That was with heavy use of a walkthrough. I either would not have finished the game or probably would have added another 10 hours or so of just making huge mistakes. So 13 hours with a walkthrough to beat the game. How about you?
I did not do that, and so I am a testament to the fact that I got my first quote-unquote real ending 35 hours into my first time. I've now put in approximately 54 hours across many, many playthroughs. I've gotten most of the normal endings, but there is still just an absolute bottomless well of secrets and additional content if you are willing to plumb those depths.
Right. Yeah, and it is a game that you may need to like restart your playthrough if you back yourself into an unwinnable or very difficult situation. I had to do that. But it is a game where knowledge compresses the playtime. Like if you struggled for 5 hours to get to a certain point and then you're like, I got to restart my game, you can probably get back to that exact point in a fraction of the time.
Yeah. 20 minutes.
Yeah. Like, if you really know what you're doing. Yeah. So let's rewind a bit. Our histories with Fear and Hunger. Now it's interesting. Both of us wrote down that we had the same introduction to this game, the Super Eye Patch Wolf video. So for me personally, and I assume it was the same for you, I like Super Eye Patch Wolf's videos a lot. And I like the very like over dramatized kind of like playthrough, go through this experience, relive this experience with me type of vibe. And I thought it was just like perfect for Fear and Hunger and like the moments of triumph and despair and emotional swings and stuff like that you go through. So it really sold the game to me, but I did not play it until you started playing it. So what was it that made you actually like be like, all right, I'm going to play this now?
Yeah, so I had a similar experience where that just popped up on a YouTube feed. You know, I'm subscribed to all of the horror channels. My YouTube is just absolutely polluted with weird PlayStation games I've never heard of.
Yes.
And I agree. That video was a really great introduction to like the emotional journey of playing the game, which I did find compelling. But at the time, the content warnings were extreme enough to discourage me and make me be like, okay, I'm fine experiencing this secondhand, which is, you know, not uncommon. There's plenty of media that I'm happy to relegate to that position. That video also was really the start of like a huge spike in attention on it. And so since that video, many people have talked about it in greater depth. The other video that really got me into it was one that was much more about like the mechanical complexities to it. And I am a mechanics sicko. I really like the nitty-gritty details of specifically like mechanics for horror, right?
Yeah.
I want mechanical tension that causes me to feel stressed, and getting to hear about all of the full scope of not just like enemies hit hard and your health is low, right? Like there's so much stuff that this game does to mess with you in a really hostile but somehow charming way. And around that time, like I started getting in the back of my head like, I'm gonna fall into this hole, aren't I? And I did.
Yeah, it was one of those where you could tell that, like, if this game hits and I'm not, like, immediately repelled by it, then I am gonna, like, kind of obsess over it. And, like I said, I needed the walkthrough. I didn't play it multiple times, so I like, didn't fall into the hole, per se.
Yeah.
But I did come to, like, really appreciate what you just talked about, the mechanical complexity, all the secrets, all the knowledge and stuff like that. And so, like, I knew that, like, I at least want to see it. I want to like experience this because it sounds, at the very least, it sounds interesting and weird and cool. And I'm just like basically always up for a weird, cool, challenging, even hostile towards me and my, my good times playing video games type of thing. So I knew I would play it someday. And then like, it was just basically like you and I chat sometimes, just, hey, what you playing? Stuff like that. And you had repeatedly been like, nothing but Fear and Hunger, dude. So it was like, the gears start turning. I'm like, it would be cool to like play this and maybe do a podcast. And here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also a brief digression. When we started talking about this, there was also a brief conversation about should we play this one, the first game, or should we play the sequel?
Right.
And the sequel is there is some common wisdom that like you can skip the first game and you can go directly to the sequel. It is much bigger in scope, much more polished. But it has really different design goals, which I also love. I really love Fear and Hunger 2, but one, it's still in active development. It's going to have a huge update dropping theoretically anytime now. And I'm saying that after we've gotten some new Deltarune, and Silksong got some new footage today. So anything is possible.
Yeah, exactly. The stuff, all those, and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines too. Like, we're recording this on like the first day of Gamescom. So like all these things that we had just always been like, yeah, what the fuck ever. Like, when it happens, it'll happen. And if it doesn't happen, it's not happening, whatever. Like, at this point, who knows? So everything, dreams are coming true today, apparently. So
dreams are coming true. But I assure you that like the Fear and Hunger community has exactly the same like releasing today energy, no matter how delusional.
The Silksong people, yeah.
Exactly. So that's still in development, and I'm very excited to play what will ultimately become like the final vision of that.
Yeah.
But also the first game is just like real mean and nasty and immediate in a way that just like really grabbed me. And I did kind of want to live vicariously through you experiencing that as well.
That is a good way to describe this game. It is mean. It's nasty. It is very complicated. It's like I don't want to say this game is a bad teacher all the time. I think it is sometimes. But there are lots of things in the game where it's like, I don't know what the fuck this game wants me to do. And then you kind of like, if you take a step back and be like, what's happening right now? Because you're getting fucked up. You're having a bad time. What's happening right now? And then what do I maybe have available to me, or a place that I could maybe go that the game is trying to get me to not keep doing this same thing over and over again? What other options do I have? And a lot of times that will solve whatever is currently tearing you to pieces. So it's inelegant, I think, is a good way to describe the way that it teaches sometimes, but it is teaching you in its own way. And so like once you get on like that rhythm and that get in, especially the mindset of like, I'm going to turn this game on. I'm going to play it for an hour or something like that. I'm probably going to eat shit for 45 minutes of that hour.
Yeah.
Get in that mindset. And then like, what am I going to learn from all those times when I eat shit? And then, like we said, it's that thing where if you play and you die and you have a horrible time for an hour, once you figure out the trick, most of the time you just zoom past that thing that was causing you that stress. So I really, really like respect the game design here. I think it's extremely cool. I didn't always like playing it. And I finished the first ending and I was like, yeah, I'm going to replay it. I'm going to go do the thing that I missed the first time because I took too long. And I'm going to like try to, engage with these other things. And I didn't replay it. I did not start a new save file. So like, I didn't like it that much where I was like, I wasn't in it that much. But I'm sitting here, weeks after finishing that first playthrough and being like, this game's really fucking neat. I think it's super cool. It's just like, it's not fun and, but it's rewarding in its own way. And like, we've had the conversation a lot of times, like games don't have to be fun. They should be rewarding in some way though. They should be engaging. And this game definitely is. So cool game. I'm definitely going to play the sequel sometime. I'll probably wait for that final content update, I guess.
Yeah. Warning, that game is huge. I put 50 hours into the first game. I put 80 hours into the second game and have no signs of stopping.
Okay.
It is so crazy dense.
Yeah.
Total agreement. To yes and what you're saying, like the game is a bad teacher on purpose and to a point. Like it is not accidentally, and it's not failing to do something that it's trying to. It wants to be obtuse, and it succeeds at it. So to give just a spoiler-free thing, almost no items will tell you what they do.
Right.
They simply describe, like, this is a vial of white liquid, and it's up to you to figure out why you would care about that. And spoiler, it will save your life sooner or later.
Yeah. It's definitely a game where like playground knowledge is back, you know?
Yes.
And even if that playground knowledge is as simple as like, I'm going to text Adam and be like, hey man, what does that white liquid do? And it's going to be on Adam whether he's like, fuck around a bit. Maybe you'll find out. Or if you just want to like tell me. But it is that kind of game where it's great to have someone playing, you know, at the same time. This would be amazing for like, if you can get a group of people to play it together and just share what you learn. But it is good to have someone who's already played where you can bounce questions off of, which is cool. I mean, we all kind of lament all the circumstances that took the playground knowledge types of like sharing and games kind of away from us. That's a nostalgic thing for a lot of us, I think. This is one of those games. I can't imagine being, 9 years old with my friends at recess talking about this game, but it's back in its own unique way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that like playground knowledge and like shared communal bonding over like it's interesting because the game it's not an immersive sim and it's not like all of these things, but it is really open-ended and there's lots of ways to solve every problem. And so it's not about like talking about a cool set piece or whatever. It's talking about like these broad obstacles and these, broad challenges and like all of the different weird ways that people will overcome them.
Yeah.
In a really fun and rewarding way. And also, this is important to note because this game is so tough and mean, you can really break this game. If you know what you're doing and you want to, you can become wildly overpowered. And let me tell you, a revenge tour feels great.
Oh, I'm sure it does. Yeah. I mean, we'll have some things in the spoilers section to talk about like specific roadblocks, meat walls, et cetera, and how we got past them. And then you can tell me about the revenge tour and and stuff like that. Before we go into like the meat of the episode here, I do want to take some time and just talk about those content warnings that you mentioned before.
Yes.
Part of the reason why YouTubers can't show everything in the game, otherwise their videos will get taken down. And a reason why a lot of people will probably like hear about it and choose not to play this in the first place, which, it kind of factored into my decision when I first watched the Super Eye Patch Wolf video to just be like, like it's not a thing where like I can't do it, but like I just don't want to right now. So there's a lot of content warnings in Fear and Hunger. DoesTheDogDie.com, as always, has a pretty extensive list of the stuff going on in the game. But of note, one of the things that this game does to establish horror and to make you feel uncomfortable is there's a lot of sexual violence in the game.
Yes.
Usually in the form of like, if you lose a fight, what the enemies will do to you. Stuff like that. That is the main way that I encountered it in my game. It specifically happens to you as the player. And even beyond that, there's a bunch of enemies that have like a very visible penis, which is something you don't see in video games ever, really. There's a status effect after certain things happen called bleeding anus, which is one of the things where I was like a little childish, to put that as a status effect in the game. And that's one of the main criticisms I hear about this is that the depictions of this is edgelordy, childish, etc. I don't agree or disagree with that kind of criticism, except for the bleeding anus thing. That is childish, I think. But we do want to say, like, put this out front, especially before we get further into the discussion. This is a prominent thing in Fear and Hunger. You can mod it out in the mod that I used to fix all the bugs and crashes in the game. Also modded out some, not all of this. Very distressing things happen to my character still, even with that mod on. So yeah, that is the general like introduction to the content warnings. I'm not going to like police what's okay to put in a horror media. Like, I think that this is a type of horror. It's very uncomfortable, very visceral to see. And we just want to make sure that everyone's aware that this stuff is in Fear and Hunger. I think you have to put like some pretty heavy mods on it to completely remove it. I'm not even sure if you can.
I mean, there are censorship mods that, like, to me are almost cartoonish and just like, putting black boxes over what feels like half the
there's
screen at
the
points.
pinecone mods and stuff like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So my take on it, I think the most gratuitous examples of it are too much. They are either childish or just trying to provoke a reaction, which is explicitly and textually the point. So I don't know if you looked up like the history of this, but basically the way that this game started was like kids in school fucking around and being like, yo, wouldn't it be fucked up if this happened? What would you do in this crazy situation? Right. And just like deliberately like bullshitting wild, morally questionable situations to your friends. That got turned into what was like a tabletop game that was about exploring like extreme content, basically. And then that tabletop game got in school as like a school thesis project, got turned into what became Fear and Hunger, the video game. So it is like explicitly, textually, intentionally about pushing boundaries, about being too far. By volume, I think that most of it is to a purpose and usually effective. But there are a handful of times where it crosses the line and is too much for my personal tastes. The two additional things that I will say on that is, one, it feels like he did learn and pull back from that. There is not that explicit sexual content, or at least sexual assault, in Fear and Hunger 2. And then also, I am one of those people for who, like, nudity for horror purposes is a really valid thing. And I think that a censorship mod that totally removes nudity from this game would actually be detrimental to the experience. I think that it is absolutely a fine idea to mod out like the most extreme content, but I would not personally want it to become, a tame version of itself. The nudity for horror, again, specifically, is used well and impactfully.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that for sure, especially with the nudity. There is some stuff that even I saw. It's tough for me to say exactly because I don't know what the mod that I used removed. I don't to the full extent. But I did see some shit that I was like, holy, that is gross. It is viscerally like repulsive to see, but to an effect where I'm like, holy shit, the monster that did that, that's bad news. And not in that specific example, not a thing where I was like, that's just fucking, edgelord childish shit. So it's kind of a mixed bag, I think. But the point of, making this a talking point before we get too far into the episode is that everyone needs to be aware this is like pretty prominent throughout Fear and Hunger, and that you should be able to make that decision for yourself. And like along like the different levels that you can make that decision from, like, play it and be aware that it's coming up, to all the way through like mod some out, or just don't play Fear and Hunger, listen to us talk about it. I mean, it's probably going to be the last time until the spoiler section that I bring up like a very specific example where I was like, that's gross and disturbing, but memorable. So I just want to give everyone the opportunity to like be aware in a way that like most games don't require this lengthy of a discussion about content like this, but I think Fear and Hunger does warrant that.
Yeah, most games don't warrant the content warning, and this game absolutely earns it in every sense. This is a game that I'm almost shocked that we've gone this long without mentioning it. It does kind of demand comparisons to Berserk. So if you are familiar with Berserk, either the manga or the several anime adaptations, those are similarly pitch black, dark fantasy with extreme content. If you have looked into that and felt like that was too much, this will also be too much. If you have looked at that and felt like this is a lot, but like there's something worthwhile here, then I think that you'll have a similar experience.
I see. I guess I didn't get far enough in Berserk to see anything darker than people getting cut in half with giant swords.
Yes, that's early days, I assure you.
Okay, fair enough.
But also, like, spoiler, a reductionist take, you could make an argument that this is like Berserk with the serial numbers filed off. This is very heavily inspired by Berserk, but it's not just inspired by that. There's a whole collection of like inspirations, and this is something that is, to me, greater than the sum of those parts and those references.
Fair enough. All right. Well, with that stuff being said, let's take our first music break, and when we come back, we'll kind of set up the story, but I think we'll pretty soon get talking about like what happens in this game. What are you doing in the game? In Fear and Hunger, you play as one of 4 pre-made characters on a mission to delve into the dungeons of Fear and Hunger. So you get to pick one of these 4 characters. They are called the Mercenary, the Outlander, the Dark Priest, or the Knight. They all have names too, but I didn't write them down. So yes. I remember a couple, but it's not important. 2 cool things about this choice. So the choice of the character, number 1, will determine your starting equipment and starting skills. It will also determine like the story reason why your character is at this dungeon. And then one of the cool things is you will find the other characters throughout your playthrough. They're all there for a reason. They're not there because you picked them at the beginning of the game. They're all there for their own story reason. They all kind of combine into the story of Fear and Hunger. But you get to pick which one you want. So I played as the Outlander my first time, and then I had failed. I had to restart. I played as the Mercenary in the run that I actually finished the game with. So have you played with all these characters now?
Yes, I have played with all of the characters. They are sufficiently distinct in order to, in my experience, make that replay worthwhile to me. The way that they, like, these are basically like pre-gen characters in, you know, a tabletop game or something. Like these are archetypes. They've got their thing, but they're not blank slates unless you're playing as them, which is a really weird thing that I've never quite seen before. But basically, if you're playing as the Mercenary, this is a blank slate character who you have agency over. But if you're playing as another character, you can encounter the Mercenary, and they will be like basically a more canonical version of that character.
Right.
Which is a really interesting way to handle that kind of thing. But yeah, they determine starting equipment, stats, abilities, and they all play similarly, but like with distinctions strong enough to really keep them separated.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. Like, it's a good point you make. Like, you make decisions throughout Fear and Hunger about, you know, what am I going to do in this fucked up situation that I come across? And so you role play a little bit. But like you said, if you were to meet your own character in a different playthrough, you have no control over them. They act entirely upon their own motivations, basically. You also answer some questions at the beginning of the game. They'll ask you like, hey, this thing happened in your backstory. What did your character do? And they feel like that thing that some games do, where they ask those questions to just kind of let you connect with the character a little bit and kind of build out your own headcanon for like, who am I? These have huge mechanical implications in Fear and Hunger, to the point where on my second playthrough, where I started as the Mercenary, I looked up like, you know, what's a good way to start the game as the Mercenary? And some of the things were like, these specific answers will give you game busting abilities right from the beginning. But you don't know that until you've played and read, or played a lot, we'll say.
Yeah. Like here's a broad tip. In a lot of these situations, it'll give you the option of being like, stand and fight, or run, coward. Run Coward is a great option to pick. And
Yes.
like, it's not a game like that's something that won't be obvious if you're approaching it from like kind of a traditional RPG mindset where you're cool, powerful, heroic. You are small and scrappy and an underdog, and like being willing to cut and run is hugely valuable.
Right. So I think it's a good time to just talk a little bit, because I have another point about the story, but we can kind of loop back to that. You talking about the difference between fighting and running, and like how, I play a lot of video games. I know how RPG Maker games work. I'm going to fight some stuff. And Fear and Hunger is not quite like that, because I said at the top of the episode, it's like a mix of a bunch of genres, but it's not, to me, fully any one of them. Like, it's kind of like a Japanese RPG style game. It's not completely an RPG, though. It's kind of survival horror, not totally. Got some immersive sim type vibes to it, but it's not an immersive sim. It's just kind of like dabbling in all these different areas. I think like maybe I would have liked it to go more immersive sim. I think that would be really fucking cool to play like the fully immersive sim version of this. But as it is, it's cool. So it's a really hard game. That's something I want to emphasize right at the beginning of this part. We talked about it earlier. It's not just hard, it's cruel, it's punishing. There's a bunch of stuff that you start the game and you're like, I don't know anything about this and I'm just dying. And I don't, the game never said, here's how you get over this situation. There's no tutorial at all.
No.
By traditional sense. The tutorial is, for example, you start the game, you're in this courtyard and you hear barking, dogs barking in the distance. And as you spend time in this courtyard, there's a bunch of crates to loot and stuff like that. So maybe you're doing that. Maybe you're just sitting there wondering what you're supposed to do. And the barking from the dogs gets closer. And then the dogs show up and they kill you immediately. You don't even go to a battle screen, I don't think. They just kill you. And so you're like, all right, well, what the fuck, game? And I can't remember if it's on the difficulty I played on or like the higher one, but it's like, okay, so the dogs are coming. Let me run in the dungeon. The dogs follow you in the dungeon. So, and they kill you. So it's like, all right, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And you eventually find out there is a place the dogs won't follow you, for example. And that's how this game teaches you, is basically says, fuck around and find out. But most of the time, you're going to die because of what you tried if you didn't figure out the right thing or intuit the right thing. And that's really tough to get in the mindset of if you're not already there. It would be really hard to like pick up Fear and Hunger because it looks like another RPG Maker game. Like it looks like Undertale or it looks like Omori or something like that. And this is so different from a play experience.
As we said up front, this is a game that takes 20 hours to beat in 3 hours.
Right.
It's one that is, I can't tell you the number of times where like I would just be playing the game and then I would laugh. And then my wife in the other room would be like, did you get pranked to death again? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Pranked to death.
I love like, I commonly say this about the From Software games, but like a lot of times deaths in those games are funny. Like especially the non-boss deaths in those games are funny because it's like, a guy busted out of a wall and like, hit me and pushed me into another guy that grabbed me. And it's like, it's kind of funny in a cruel way. And this game's just full of shit like that.
Constantly. Absolutely. There is nothing that will ruin your day like stepping on a rusty nail.
Oh my God. Yeah. And that's one of the ways this game is like especially cruel, because you're not going to know that rusty nail is there until you step on it. And you're not going to know how bad it is until you step on it. And then every time, you're going to die because of it. Then every time you go to that specific spot on the map, you're going to have to remember there's a nail on this tile right there. Yeah. Do not step on it. And if, for example, you're trying to run away from something, because you can see monsters on like the overworld, so to speak. There's no random encounters. That's what I mean. If you're trying to run away from something, which I did a lot of, and you step on that rusty nail because you're rushing, guess what? You're dead again.
It's well, you're not dead immediately,
Right,
but it
but
is
functionally.
like oh god, like oh the effort that's required to unfuck this situation because I stepped on a nail is not insignificant.
Right. Things compound for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Snowballing negatively is definitely a thing where one mistake will lead to another mistake,
Yeah.
and you'll get pranked to death real often. But for me, like I really like the tension that's here, and again, it's a weird mindset, and you have to like have it going into it. But when I first played the Resident Evil remake in college, I got up to the part where the mansion gets repopulated with new enemies, and then the enemies that I had killed started coming back up, and I was totally drained of resources, and I'd basically soft locked the game for myself. Like I had screwed up and I wasn't able to continue, and I was really bummed, and then I started a new game, and then I got back to that point in like 2 hours and was like way better prepared and understood things, and like that feeling of like going back and trying again, but being able to do it better, being able to like anticipate the blows, is really fun to me. And so this gives that feeling, but then also it encourages you to play past your mistakes. It doesn't want you to like every time something goes wrong, quick save, quick load, like I'll just do that. Like,
Yeah.
you will be in situations where you are fighting something and you've got it. Like, it's not a problem. And then something goes wrong, and then someone loses both of their arms, and then you're just like sitting there being like, this run is over. Like, I should just stop. And you're like, well, in that case, I've got nothing to lose. Let's go. Let's get crazy. Let's do that dumb thing. Let's touch the rock. Like, why not?
I do like that. I do like that feeling. It's kind of freeing, honestly, to be like, every one of my party members has an infected limb. I don't have anything to heal infections. So we are functionally fucked, but I can probably squeeze out another like 10 minutes of time here before things get, until everyone dies, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use that 10 minutes to go try all those things I was too afraid to try last time for fear of getting an infection or something like that.
Exactly.
So it is honestly freeing to get into that mode of like, it's almost zero consequence now. Let's go try some shit out and see if we can't learn how to fight that thing that I was too afraid to fight last time because it looks big and scary. If we die, I'm already dead. So what? Stuff like that.
Yeah. In the same way that like doing like a Dark Souls run where it's like, I'm going to die, but I'll pick up a sword along the way, and so it's totally worth it. I don't have any souls. You can't do anything to me. Like, I'm invincible. Yeah. Like the game is constantly telling you not to touch the stove, but then at a certain point it's like, go ahead and touch the stove as much as you want. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Again, like everyone's got infections, we're missing limbs. I'm going to go touch the stove and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
This game is full of learning like that. And so you take what you learn from that kind of bonus time, we'll call it, and you apply that because you'll reload at an earlier save, and you'll use what you learn to not get in that situation next time. And a lot of times, like I would say that basically every step along the way in Fear and Hunger, I would hit a roadblock every half hour or so of playtime that would just fuck my run up. And then the second time I got to that roadblock, if I had learned how to get past it, like randomness didn't often stop me. It was more so, I know how to fight this thing, or I know, not to rush into this corridor because something terrible happens when I rush into there. If I know how to prepare for situations, if I know how to fight certain enemies, randomness in combat is still a thing, but it's not like it doesn't stop you as often as you might think it does. Knowledge is the most important thing in Fear and Hunger. Knowledge of how to fight certain things, knowledge of how to prepare for certain situations, which is amazing. I love the feeling of a game where it's like, I learned how to deal with this and this thing. It's not like it will never be a problem again, but like it's probably not going to be a problem again. And that's a great feeling to have. This game is full of stuff like that.
It's the RPG equivalent of like counting cards in poker, where it's like when you not poker, in blackjack, right? Where it's like you're given cards and you're like, all right, there's random cards and I have like, I'm just supposed to do something like whatever, but then it's like, oh wait, no, there's logic behind this. And then also you can manipulate those odds. Like if you know what you're doing, you can really like stack the odds in your favor. Mm-hmm. And that is really like another part of the secret sauce is like there is a lot of randomness. You know, it's not a roguelike, but it does have like a hefty scooping of randomness that almost all of you can manipulate in some way. And again, once you learn how to start like tilting the scales in your favor, you can start the snowball rolling in the opposite direction. And that's awesome.
Yeah, I will say, so we say like the game is full of basically knowledge is progression just as much as finding a better sword is progression, just as much as, or even more so in a lot of cases, because you'll know where that sword is, or you'll know, that I thought there would be something cool in there. There wasn't. I'm just not going to fuck with that place anymore. Or, progression as in like I got to the next layer of the dungeon, for example. But I think that the game asks a little too much of you as far as learning goes. Not to a point where it's like impossible. I'm thinking of like stuff at the end of the game where like I did read the walkthrough and be like, I want to give myself the credit that I would have figured this out given enough time, but I think my patience would have run out first. Yeah. So there is stuff like that in this game where all of these things that you're supposed to learn to give you that wonderful like mastery over, especially the early levels of the dungeon they're so difficult when you first start. And if I were to start a playthrough up right now, they would be no problem at all, unless I just step on a random nail that I didn't know was there. But like generally you reload and you're like, oh, don't step there. And it's not a problem. But getting to that point was a weird mix of like, the game pushed me into learning, but also there's a bunch of stuff that I didn't know anything about. And I don't like, I know how the game is trying to teach you, but I don't think it's very good at it a lot of times.
Yeah. And I agree completely. And I'm not going to push back at all. The game is hugely demanding of both your time and attention. And like, it's like playing the game is like clenching a muscle. You have to be so vigilant and you have to be so focused on all of the minutia that it is a stressful experience. And I would frequently have epiphanies that were basic shit, like fundamental mechanics or just like, oh, that's what that does. Great. I'm going to end this run and start a new run with a new character because it's going to be better for me to just abandon this now that I have this new knowledge. And whether or not that appeals to you is absolutely, in the eye of the beholder. This is amongst the most qualified recommendations that I can possibly make.
Yeah. And it goes even further because so there is that stuff where it's like, these are fundamental things about how to succeed at the game that I don't feel like the game really taught me. Maybe some of those times when I like felt like I stumbled into an answer that the game actually did lead me there. I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt in some of those cases. There are a lot of things where it's like, I would like a faster way to move from point A to point B. And there is one. I would have never, ever figured it out had I not read before you play, or maybe even you told me when we were chatting about the game. So there's like very basic things that the game withholds from you, and it feels like you're going to discover by accident. And I don't always, I think it's cool sometimes, but I don't think it's like great design to make the whole game like that. And it does feel like that. But that's where that playground knowledge comes in. I mean, like, I think some of my favorite games, again, the Dark Souls series is built on a bunch of this shit too. I mean, how many people are going to like start brand new, like people brand new to that series are going to start it and be like, I have no idea how to build a character here. What am I even supposed to be doing here? Soldier
of Godric is kicking my ass right now.
Yeah. And then, so like those of us who have been there will be like, oh yeah, it's this, and I know about it because I've done it and I learned the hard way. And now I know. And Fear and Hunger is the same way in a lot of ways. But on top of that, there is a bunch of like very explicitly player hostile design to the game too.
Yep.
On top of the stuff like there's a random rusty nail there. Most prominently, I would say, is the fact that you have to win a coin flip to save the game, which is a real sicko mechanic. I mean, Resident Evil limited your saves to a consumable item. This is like, win a coin flip. If you lose the coin flip, something bad's going to happen. Not only are you not going to save the game, something bad is going to happen. That's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. Now, I will say, I learned how to deal with it, but it's a lot to deal with, especially if you're the type of person who you're like, I had 30 minutes to play. I have not been able to save the game in that 30 minutes. And now I need to turn the game off and go take care of something else. And the game is like, guess you're not saving, stuff like that.
If you are in that position where it's like, I've only got a half an hour to play and I'm here for a good time, then like, this is simply not a game that is going to accommodate you.
No.
Just flatly, it's not going to do that. That is, we'll get to it more. I love the coin flips. I love the coin flips. And I love having to flip a coin to save my game. Because once again, it's a matter of like, you can stack the odds in your favor. You can know what to do in order to make it work out for you. But like, there were several times that I would have a really great half an hour. And then I would just, yell to my wife. It's just like, all right, I'm going to gamble the run on a coin flip, and honestly thrilling many times. Sometimes absolute dog shit. Sometimes it's the fucking worst, but sometimes like exhilarating. And I really do, like, on the whole, I do really like it.
It's one of those where like, now that we're both on the other side of it, we can look back on it and be like, those were thrilling moments and we did finish the game. But in the moment, and I know that fucking with saves is something that a lot of people just flat out don't like under any circumstance, for good reasons too. Like I mentioned, if you got to put the game down because like your kid threw up and you got to go take care of it, Fear and Hunger is not going to accommodate you at all in that.
Correct.
It's just one of those things. It's going to be cilantro, whether you think that it's a cool, thrilling mechanic to add on to all the other stresses, or whether you think that it's bullshit. I think it is bullshit, but I don't like hate it. I actually don't like the Resident Evil system more than this, because this game doesn't limit how many times you save. It's just not going to work all the time. So, other hostile things about this, I don't know how like, explicitly hostile some of these are. These are common things. There's permadeath in Fear and Hunger. So all of those things that we talked about where it's like, well, I didn't know an enemy was in here. They ambushed me and they killed 2 of my 3 party members and they're gone forever. So again, now we're in that bonus time. This run is over. I'm going to go try and learn some stuff. I think that's like the antidote to some of this, not the save system, but like some of this other stuff is that bonus time thing that we talked about, where it's just like, oh, we, no pressure anymore. Right. So there's permadeath. There's a pursuer enemy that will just wreck your shit if they catch you. It's a very cool design, and you won't see it like right away, but there is one. And if you run into it at an inopportune time, it could just fuck your whole run up. The other thing is like, I think if you've heard us talk about all the pressures and all of the like the difficulty, the strategy, the preparation, you may think like, this is a game where like I can really take my time. I can sit and really consider a whole lot of stuff. There is a time limit for one of the game's major objectives, which you don't have to do, but it is there. You want to do it, I think, and it does have a time limit. And the other thing is you have survival meters that are constantly ticking down based on how much time you spend. There's a fear or a mind meter based how how scared you are, how sound of mind you are. And then there's a hunger meter too. So you have to find food and eat it, and fear and hunger.
So this is interesting because
Yeah.
maybe you didn't even know this because you didn't explore this part of it, but your mind meter is also your magic meter.
I did. Yes, I did know that. Yeah.
Okay.
But it was not a factor for me until very late in the game. But I guess if you play as the Dark Priest, it might be a bigger part of your game.
Yeah, considerably.
Yeah. It is a really interesting concept, like basically using sanity as a magic currency.
Mhm.
And just like, the horror of that. The thing that I have to do to conjure up this spell takes away half of my mind meter or something.
Yeah. And the only way to restore your meter is with vices. So you either need to be smoking opium or chugging alcohol, or you will be giving full bottles of whiskey to little girls in order to keep them from going insane.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Have a cigarette, little kid.
Can I say one of my personal favorite / not favorite hostile things?
Yeah, go ahead.
All status effects are represented by icons with no names and no descriptions.
That is correct. And status effects are maybe the biggest deal in any game with status effects that I've ever played.
Absolutely. And so, like, you'll be playing and then an icon will show up and you're like, what am I looking at? I don't even know what that is. Is that a worm? Is that barbed wire? Is that like just a squiggle? Like, what does that mean? And you have to find a book that exists within the fiction of the world that will explain different status effects to you. Mm-hmm. And for most people, that's where you're going to encounter like the wild status effects that you're just like, oh, wait, this can happen to me? Like, I didn't think that this was, Yep.
To add on to that, not only are the status effects not explained, and not only are they an emergency basically when they happen, because they will all basically end your run if you leave them alone. Going back to that white vial that we don't know what it does, there are lots of ways to cure status effects, but you're not going to know about them until you figure them out for yourself or look them up. So if it's like, I would say, I can't think of any status effects that are like instant death or like death within 10, squares walking or something like that.
Infection is the closest to that.
Yeah. Infection's a pretty quick, but it's still like you have some time, not much time, but you have some time. But the first time your character gets an infection, you probably don't know how to deal with it. And you can experiment. I'm not going to say how you get rid of an infection reliably, but it's probably not something that you're going to either think to do or want to experiment with, we'll say.
Yeah.
So, all of that stuff, that's one of those things where like, I love a video game where status effects matter, but this game just withholds a lot of that. And there's a lot of status effects that A, I wouldn't have known what they did, or B, definitely wouldn't have known how to cure them without the help of playground knowledge.
Yeah.
Or the wiki in a lot of cases.
Yeah. And I mostly avoided wikis. I tried to avoid outsider information and like do as much of it by myself as possible. But like status effects were one of those things where it's like, I know a book exists. I feel like I'm allowed to just look up and double check what things do.
Mm-hmm. You may think that it's, so it's like, okay, this run is fucked. I'm going to start a brand new game and I'm going to run to all the places where I picked up the best items last time. But as Adam mentioned, it's not roguelike, it's not proc gen, but there are different level layouts that are cycled on each new playthrough. So where you found that cool sword last time, you're not going to find that cool sword in that exact place this time, most likely. Especially if you just found it in a random container or something like that. Also, weapon racks, you find a weapon rack, you have to flip a coin and win a coin flip to find a weapon in the rack. If you lose the coin flip, it will just say, nothing worth using here, which is real bad if you flip tails 3 times in a row on all 3 weapon racks in a room.
Yep, that'll happen.
Yep. And there's a bunch of shit in Fear and Hunger that elicits that exact reaction where someone's like, this fucked up bullshit thing happened. And you're like, yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah, correct.
And then we both do the Dark Souls NPC laugh where we're like, this shit sucks.
let me,
yeah.
Yes, no, this turns me into a Dark Souls NPC. Absolutely. I'm here for, all of the misery. And spoiler, everything that we're talking about here, this is on the game's normal difficulty. There's 2 higher levels of difficulty above it.
Mm-hmm. And you did some of that, right?
Yeah, I have played some Terror and Starvation. I have not beaten it. It is merciless. Here's the one thing that I'll tell you about it. It's actually a really cool difficulty modifier that changes like a lot of stuff and has a lot of unique content to it.
Okay.
But the one thing that you need to know is that, you know, you're going around in the dark places, you're going around in the mines or whatever, and you got your little like halo of light around you.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have that in Terror and Starvation. It is truly pitch black. You require torches, and when your last torch burns out, you are in the dark, and that's kind of it. That's another soft failure state.
That is, like, you know, me sitting outside of that situation. That's very cool. I like that. Like, you know, if you give me torches as a mechanical item, both to provide light, but also keep your mind meter from going down faster. I think that's how it works. On the normal difficulty, torches were like kind of optional. And it sounds like in that difficulty, they are mandatory and you need to conserve them, which is good. I like that as like, you know, you want torches to be important. Here they are. It's important now. Have fun.
Yeah. Every part of this game feeds into the sense of urgency where if it's not your health running out, if it's not your mind running out, if it's not your status effects, it's just the fact that you don't have enough torches because you weren't able to find enough sticks. And now that's a huge pressing problem. And so it's just like, there's just constant emergencies and something's always sneaking up on you.
And that leads to one of my favorite things in a game like this, and that is consumables matter, and you cannot be precious about the consumables that you have. You cannot hoard healing items. You can't hoard, like if you find the thing that cures infections, you cannot hoard it. You have to use it if someone gets an infection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stuff like that. There's a bunch of consumables that you can use in battle, and you are incentivized to use them because a lot of times if you don't use them, you're not going to survive that battle, especially if it's like a boss fight or something like that. So I love when games force me to break that, you know, keep those mega elixirs until the credits roll type of tendencies that I have. This game's really good at that. I ended this game with almost nothing because I used them all.
Which is a great feeling to me. I love that. Yeah, the consumables, there's a bunch of them. They're, again, often not well described, and they often have uses that you don't expect. And so that, once again, feeds into like the knowledge epiphany moments of just like, oh, wait, if I take this and then I find this thing, then I can really be cooking.
Mm-hmm. Or like, I found a use for this item in the field. Now I know that this thing has this sort of property. What if I use it in battle? And you might find like some cool uses for it in battle. That's where like this game kind of has a reputation out there as an immersive sim. I don't want to, I'm not blaming Super Eye Patch Wolf, but that was something he said in the video. But it's not like there are a bunch of like systems for how things interact. And then all these items have properties. And then based on those like rules of nature, basically, they behave in predictable ways. Like think of how metal behaves in Breath of the Wild, for example. Fear and Hunger does not work like that. Instead, there are seemingly thousands of little micro interactions that have been coded in for like, this item does this in the field. It also does this in battle. But if you come across a thing that's not exactly that use in the field, it's not going to do the same thing in every situation. Which that's the immersive sim thing. It's like predictable interactions based on, the rules of nature. But it's still really impressive how many interactions and uses for all these items that there are. There's very few things that I picked up and never found a use for, which is good.
Yeah. It is definitionally not an immersive sim, but it does the similar thing of like making you think outside the box and being like, I wonder if this will work, and then it working more often than you would expect. So it still gives some of that impression, even though it's strictly speaking not, but it does allow you to get creative. And again, you are just going to be surprised, both pleasantly and unpleasantly, constantly.
Yeah, that's part of that, like, fucking around and finding out is a lot of times you'll have, like, there's this enemy, and we'll talk about combat here in a second, but, like, I don't want to fight this thing. I want to figure out a non-combat way to get past this thing, or at least a way to make combat easier. So I have these things in my inventory that are implements of destruction, we'll say. Can I find a way to use those in a way outside of the combat, screen to help? And sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. And the times that you can, those are really, really rewarding to figure those out. The times that you can't, a lot of times ends up with you dying because that plan that you had didn't work when something's chasing you. But that's how you learn in Fear and Hunger. So that's cool. I like the way that it forces you to experiment, and like the way it pushes you into desperate situations where you get into that mode of like, everything's fucked right now. I'm going to open up the inventory screen and like, is there something here that could conceivably help me out? And that's, if there is something and it actually works, that's a great feeling in a game like this, that's like so high tension and high consequence. To find something to get you out of that situation, that's chef kiss. That's video games, baby.
It's really great because, like, as much as we've talked about like touching the stove and it's like, oh, that's the run, like that's how it goes. Ain't that just the way? I have also had times where I've reached that soft failure point and I'm like, I'm fucked. I'm going to touch the stove. Who cares? And then I somehow come out the other side, and then I somehow find something else that gives me what I need. And then I'm able to just like limp forward shockingly far. Yeah. And I'll be like, wait a second. I thought that this run was over, but like, maybe we're still in this, baby. Just a lot of good tension in that. And I feel like in many ways, like part of the result of that is that it creates just like this storytelling engine, where it's just like, oh, you're never going to believe what happened. Like it was crazy.
That's what made that Super Eye Patch Wolf video so good. Like the fact that this game creates emergent stories like that. And then also the fact that Super Eye Patch Wolf is so good at like dramatizing those moments. Yeah. That's what made that video. And there's a new video about Void Stranger that's a very similar type of game where that dramatization really works. But that's what the story of Fear and Hunger was to me. I mean, there's lore, there's flavor, things definitely happened. And like I can, in the spoiler section, I'll share like what happened to my character at the end of Fear and Hunger. But the most important thing, the best part about the story to me was the Emergent stuff, where I figured out a way to get past that enemy that killed me, 10 times in a row early game. Or the time that I was desperate for health and I was out of healing items and I found these NPCs and I participated in this fucked up thing that fully restored my health and allowed me to continue my run in a way that I thought everything was over. And like those emergent narrative moments, that's my story of Fear and Hunger. There is a lot of narrative content though.
Yeah, the lore is cool if you care about that kind of thing. I am invested in it now because across Fear and Hunger 1 and 2, like 2 especially builds on a lot of the stuff. And I would say is considerably more narrative focused. But like it's playing in with big, broad, weird ideas that I really appreciate. So it's not like I don't care about a cutscene in this game, of which there are like 4, right? Like this is just not that kind of game. but like there will just frequently be like these little beats that give characterization. Or again, like you encounter a character who you played as before and now you're encountering them as an NPC, and like they've got this context to them that you didn't quite understand, and it kind of like retroactively flavors the whole experience in a way that I find really interesting. Late in the game, there's like kind of the big cutscene, which goes into like all of the characters and like details how they intersect in a way.
Yeah.
And the fact that they withheld that, like for me, that was like 20 hours into playing, right? Like 20 hours in, I finally like was like, oh, these are characters.
Yeah.
And I was like really kind of fascinated and delighted by that.
Yeah. I mean, that was neat, like you said, because I had not played as two of the characters, and one of them I like got just a little ways into the game. And so to learn a bit about who they are and what they want and where they came from and stuff, that is nice to see. Another cool thing about like the lore is if you find a book that talks about like the history of this place,
Yes.
or, you know, the local religion or something like that, those things are more relevant to your playthrough of Fear and Hunger, like the things you have to do to finish the game, than you might expect. Like these aren't Elder Scrolls lore books where you're like, oh, that's a neat thing I read about a god who I will never, ever think about again. Fear and Hunger is not really like that, which I think is very cool.
Yeah. Almost all of the lore is directly relevant in some way, which is like weirdly, like this is like the tabletop RPG roots shining through, where it's like a common foible that new dungeon masters is just like, hey, let me stop and tell you the cool story about this that I wrote, you know? I want to tell you a short story about the history of this town. That's not interesting because it's just a story. But if you make it like directly applicable to the situation at hand, and if you make it like important knowledge, that like then you're going to get me. Like that's going to cause me to care a lot more. Up to and including, minor spoiler that I'm going to be real vague about, there's a boss where you can just have a quiz about whether or not you've been paying attention to the world.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good thing to talk about combat, because it's not all just combat. Real quick before talking about the combat screen, you are best advised to either avoid monsters on the world or use the run command as soon as combat starts most of the time. That's probably the best way to go about things, because the combat is very punishing. Again, there's a lot of knowledge that goes into making it like doable, but things can go south in a hurry in combat. It is in the like, you know, it looks like JRPG combat. So you have your characters lined up, and then you have the enemy that you're facing. Everyone inputs their commands, and then they all play out in the order of, I think, the speed stat, probably.
Yes, correct.
That is about where like the RPG-ness, like the like traditional RPG combat-ness of this kind of ends. Like, you have a bunch of abilities, but your abilities are not all like, you know, damaging abilities. One of the best things that you can do in combat if you don't run is to use the talk command. And like everything in Fear and Hunger, a lot of times that will end up with you wasting turns and getting killed if you try to approach it in the wrong way. But there's a lot of cool ways that you can, you know, bypass fighting this thing by using that talk command, and whatever that means in that specific situation. Different monsters will have different ways that you try to interact with them, for example. So that's why I said earlier, this is like kind of an RPG, but it's like you don't level up in this game. You find new equipment, but you don't level up. You might learn some new skills, but the combat screen is almost like an extension of like learning about the things that you're fighting. And then
Mhm.
only once you've learned as much as you can, then you're advised, okay, start going after limbs with the limb targeting system.
Yeah.
Actually try to fight this thing. What I'm trying to say is it's a big runway to get to the point where you're like, I can confidently fight this thing. And that is not what
Mhm.
you might expect when you first get into that battle screen.
Yeah. So, like, two things that I want to highlight. One,
Yeah.
I do feel is in terms of like the way that the game is deliberately obfuscating or whatever. I will say that I feel like the talk action is one that I really don't like because it is kind of a much broader like interact action. You're
Mhm.
usually talking, but it gives you other options as well. So to
Yeah.
spoil the very first combat encounter that you mentioned where those dogs can come up, if you have a stick in your inventory, you can talk to the dogs, which will give you the option to throw a stick to distract them, and then they will waste their turns going after the stick instead of trying to kill you, which is like really fascinating, right? It's
Yeah.
Undertale shit, but like it's not on Front Street in the same way, and it's also not nearly as common. It just contributes to like this puzzle design for all of these encounters.
Yeah. I will say real quick about the talk thing. I almost wish it was like on the main combat menu.
Yes.
Just because it is more important than just another skill that you have. And then
Mm,
the other thing about it is, I think I agree. I think that I wish they had changed the word
yeah.
because you get into a combat with dogs, for example, or some
Mm,
other, there's some freakish fucking monsters in Fear and Hunger. And you see that menu option talk and you're like, well, I can't, all I'm going to do is waste a turn by trying to talk to this spider creature.
mhm.
So I'm not doing that because it's going to fuck me up, but you cannot waste turns in Fear and Hunger. So I wish it was presented a little bit differently, or like I wish there was a stronger, like have an NPC say try talking or something, like, obviously be smarter than what I just said right there. Like say something more interesting than try talking, but
Yeah.
I wish there was like a stronger tutorial because this feels like a very common thing where like I would text you and be like, I don't know how to get past this thing. And you would be like, have you tried talking? And be like, no, I haven't tried
Yeah.
talking. What the fuck do you
Why
mean?
would I try that?
Exactly. But you should just, be okay with the fact that you might fuck up. You might die because of, you know, trying to talk to the wrong thing in the wrong way.
Mhm.
It's all part of the puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the second thing that I want to bring up is that when you start the game, you are the character that you chose, and that's it. You do not have any party members, you do not have any team members,
Yeah.
and it will take you a long time to figure out how to reliably recruit people for your party. The game will almost go out of its way to deny that. Like you will encounter these characters, and with basically without exception, they'll be like, "No, I'm not going to join you."
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about, stupid?
You want me to go deeper in this fucked up dungeon? No, I'm going to stay right here.
And while it is just one person, like you are at a staggering disadvantage.
Yeah.
Every combat is a absolute emergency if it's just one person on your team. Once you figure out how to fairly reliably get an additional person or two on your team, you can distribute some of that damage. You can figure out, how you can attack more than one limb in a single turn. Like that's huge, but it takes you a long time, a shockingly long amount of time to figure out how to do that.
Yep. I would say at least 5 hours of my playthrough was before I could find somebody else to join. And a lot of times there's like conditions to get them to join that, again, you're not going to know about ahead of time. You just got to figure it out, maybe say the right thing when you talk to them, or maybe find some interaction. There's like, again, there's a lot of cool stuff. There's one party member that I was able to recruit who was extremely clutch for me.
Mm.
And I only figured out how to recruit them because I was messing around with different things in the menu other than fight. So it's a cool moment, but that thing killed me like 5 times before I got to that point, and I was getting pretty frustrated. It is kind of like that Dark Souls like item run where you're like, I'm going to die during this, but I'm just picking up items. I don't care. There is sometimes when you probably should get in that mindset of like, I'm just trying to learn stuff. I'm not trying to beat the game right now. Just trying to learn stuff. So if I die, it's cool. It's okay. I will reload and I will continue trying to learn stuff. And that's just like not how most games work. And it extends into combat where like most enemies are more than a match for you if you don't know specifically how to approach that fight, especially if you have to fight them. The game has this limb targeting and dismemberment system where most enemies will have like 2 arms, 2 legs, torso, head, and penis in a lot of cases that you can target. And so you got to learn, like, is it best to attack the head? Is it best to attack the arms because it's holding a weapon? Is it best to attack the legs? Maybe the penis? Why not the torso? The torso has the highest chance to hit them, but it's not going to prevent them from using their weapon, like cutting an arm off might. And for some fights, there's a real order of operations of like, do this, then do this. There's also a defend command if you think a big attack is coming. So like, I never use the defend command in Final Fantasy VI, but I use the defend command quite a bit in Fear and Hunger because it's very helpful.
Yeah, it's really important. Here's another one of those tips that I didn't learn for many, many hours, and I don't know if you learned this as well. So enemies will give some kind of like prompt where it's like their arm is rearing back for an attack or something, or their eyes glint menacingly, right? And then what that means is that the next turn, they're going to do something either very dangerous or a coin flip attack, which will probably be really devastating to you.
Yes. Yeah.
Those coin flips that we talked about, they happen in combat as well.
Yes, they do. And you want to win them.
You want to win them. If you have encountered a coin flip attack in combat, something has gone wrong before that point.
Yeah. That's that order of operations where like that there's enemies at the beginning of the game that were like it was basically like, I don't want to fight them ever because I cannot beat them without basically wrecking everything. I'll make it out with like, 1 arm, a concussion, a bunch of bad stuff. And then you get to a point where like, if you experiment enough, you learn how to read those cues and how to react to them. I could no-hit those enemies reliably every time by the last kind of like winning time I went through that area where those enemies are. So like, that's really awesome. But you have to learn how to read what the game is telling you when it says it's rearing back for a big attack with the club, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, here's the pro tip that that was a long preamble for me to give you the actual tip.
Let's see.
Only the main character needs to defend.
Ooh, okay.
So if your if there's a coin attack incoming, which is prompted with a text prompt, and your main character defends, then that attack will be avoided completely, and your other party members are still free to do stuff.
Okay.
Because when I tried to do it, I was having everyone defend.
Same
and now
here.
I'm wasting
know that.
up to 4 turns.
Right.
when I only need to waste 1.
Yeah. So combat's an interesting like puzzle more so, I would say, in Fear and Hunger. Like you're not leveling up, so you're not going to grind up to be able to like just overpower stuff. But learning the puzzle of each fight is really rewarding. But it is tough. And you are incentivized to find better weapons too. So like damage does matter. Like the numbers matter for sure. But the thing that matters the most is like learning specifically how to deal with specific enemies. Even like, I would say like the hardest boss fights in the game, there are ways to really neutralize them. It's not just like a DPS race of like, late game boss fights. There's a DPS aspect, but there's more the puzzle aspect of it. That's the most important thing. And we're not going to get into it too much, like, especially not in the non-spoiler section, but there's like a whole extra layer of like character improvement, character building, adding new skills, other ways that might benefit certain stats that you have, like all things that you need to discover throughout playing through the game. There's a lot of ways to make yourself powerful in addition to learning the puzzle, we'll say. So it's weird because like you see a game like this and you think like, oh, combat's going to be the most important thing. Like Lisa the Painful, for example, is a game that's like presented very similar to this, and combat is much more of a numbers and skills game in Lisa the Painful than in Fear and Hunger. Fear and Hunger is a puzzle. Lisa has some puzzle aspects too. I think they're kind of similar, but Fear and Hunger, like, I guess as opposed to Lisa the Painful, in Fear and Hunger, if you see an enemy, your best course of action is to just run away from it. Like, don't fight it. You're not getting experience points. So
it's Resident Evil rules where the reason to engage in an enemy is so that it is off the board. Like, you're not getting rewarded for killing them, at least not directly.
Right.
This is a game that's designed so that it's very likely that the first turn of the first battle, you will get an arm cut off.
Yeah.
Like, it wants that to happen. It wants that to be its initial impression. And as overwhelming as that feels, because it's like, oh, I'm cutting off their arm so then they can't use it, but then they can do it the same to you, except the enemy doesn't have to play the rest of the goddamn game.
Yeah. Yep. So combat, gameplay, all very stressful, I would say, but rewarding as you learn it. There's one other thing that goes into the kind of like the stress of Fear and Hunger, and that is the presentation of it all. So piggybacking off of talking about the combat is the visual design of it and just how fucking cool the monster designs are. The amount of penises notwithstanding, the pixel art.
Let's
for
be
these
fair.
monsters,
There's all kinds of genitals.
There is.
We're not just in the penis zone.
It's mostly the penis zone, though.
But there is a lot of penis.
Yeah. The pixel art is really, really good. Everything is really fucked up that you fight. And just like the general art of the things that you see in the dungeon is really good too. All within that kind of like that top-down RPG Maker style. So it's like kind of limited in how they can show you things, but they make the best use of or they make the most use of the pixel art. And again, it's like one of those things where it's like, how is this one person able to think of all these mechanical things, but also very good pixel artist, and the sound design is really, really creepy and cool, and all of these other things, just to kind of, you know, we've been talking for a while about all of these really, really interesting things about this game and how it mostly comes from one person, which is wild. And then it's like, you get to this and you're like, okay, so they're the game design person. They got all these cool game design ideas. They can't possibly be a super talented artist either. That wouldn't be fair, but here we are.
Sometimes life isn't fair.
Yeah.
That's what Fear and Hunger taught me.
Yes.
The visuals are really interesting. The developer Miro has a very distinct art style of which I can't really snap it onto like anything specifically. Like, it really does have its own style and personality. Again, it really doubles down on this in the sequel. Tremendous monster design, really weird and unsettling character designs all around. It's frequently heavily inspired by other stuff. Like, this is a real soup of inspirations, but it all comes together and it has a really strong identity.
Agreed. The character like portraits, like when you see like a blown up portrait or like characters in like the menu screen, they look good. But I'm specifically thinking of like the characters, the models, like when you see them in the game and they all have like those sunken in eyes and stuff like that. You're just like, oh yeah, everyone's having a bad time here. Everyone
looks like shit.
Yeah, it's the worst.
And spoiler, there are supernatural enemies who can age you. and make you
shit.
look even worse.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
The last kind of bit about this, I wanted to shout it out. We usually talk about the soundtrack. The Fear and Hunger music is effective for creating a mood, but it's more sound design than like songs per se. This game has really strong sound design. So if all those mechanical pressures weren't stressing you out enough, you have these like dark and dingy dungeon sounds, but also one of the most prominent sound effects is like tinnitus ear ringing that will just like fade in to a fairly loud level just as you're going through the dungeon. And that is a sound that, as someone who has tinnitus, luckily not super bad, but I do have it. That is not a sound that I associate with good times. It sucks. And to have it be like a specific sound design choice in a horror game works. It's very unsettling.
Yeah. Shout out to the loudest dogs in the world.
Oh my God. Yeah.
When you first start the game, dogs will bark, and it's like the loudest and highest quality sound effect I've ever heard. The first time I literally like paused the game and I was like, is that in the game? Or is that like, is that a neighbor dog? Like, what's going on?
It's like the first time you hear it though, it's like off in the distance, right? But like when there are dogs on the screen nearby, it's as loud as it can get without like peaking, basically.
Yeah. It frequently aims to sensory overload. As you said, it doesn't have a ton of music, but there are a couple of notable songs. And I would say like the song that gives the strongest impression is just like this absolute like wall of sound, just like blasting you in a really effective way. It's a scary song, and the first time you hear it is likely in a terrifying situation.
That's right. Yep. I think I know what you're talking about. One other thing about sound I wanted to mention real quick is a lot of the kind of ambient tracks when you're in the dungeon, including the main menu theme, include this like very prominent knocking sound effect.
Yeah.
And the deeper you go in the dungeon, the more distant and echoey that knocking sound effect gets. It's very cool. I didn't notice it until I was listening to the soundtrack this afternoon.
It's really great. I actually love like the main menu theme. I think it's a really excellent one, which is good because you'll be hearing it a lot.
Yeah. After you die and you get booted back to the main menu.
Yeah.
This
is a cool game, man.
It is. So we both agreed earlier. It's a very qualified recommendation. What are those qualifiers, Adam? What kind of person do you think should play Fear and Hunger?
Oh boy. My first reaction is no one. For the first time on Tales from the Backlog, it's just a flat, you shouldn't play this.
Yeah.
That's not true because I bullied Dave into it. So obviously there is a type of person. One, you have to have a strong stomach for this kind of content. You know, again, Berserk is a good like touch point that's relatively in the public consciousness of like, this is really pitch black fantasy. Buyer beware. After you get past that, then you also have to be the person who is fine throwing yourself against a brick wall for the pleasure of smacking against a brick wall, basically. Like you being able to divorce yourself from the concept of like, this is a video game, I should be making progress. Why isn't big number going up? And just like taking it as these little experiments and these little expeditions and just like these small, one of my favorite things in the world is to have to make a plan. And this is a game that is constantly forcing you to make plans.
Yeah.
If you are not that kind of person, if you're not inclined towards that, like this also is going to be a hard sell. Those knowledge gates, those knowledge checks are really daunting. And when you first start, it's going to just feel impenetrable. But if you are the kind of person who enjoys pulling at the thread and slowly unraveling like the big picture, it feels like the thread is never ending. Like it just feels like there's always something else interesting. there's always another purpose for something. There's always another secret. There's always another something, that feeling that you get from Dark Souls or from Hollow Knight when you break down a wall and you encounter like a whole new area that just keeps going on and on.
Mhm.
Like, if that kind of stuff is catnip to you, then like you can have a really excellent time with this. This is like the same kind of recommendation to someone who likes Pathologic,
That's a great comparison. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the type of game where, like, despite all the bullshit that it throws at you, there are going to be people who play this and they're like, this is my favorite game of all time. Like, the experience that I had with this game cannot be topped by anything else. There's definitely going to be people like that.
Yeah. We talked already about the difference between like having fun and being compelled.
Mhm.
So I picked this game up last year. It was the most compelling thing that I had that whole year. I was thinking about it for months.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't let myself play the sequel until I beat it properly. And then I played the sequel for 80 more hours. Like, I have been in this world and it has just been rewarding is a weird way to phrase it. But like, I feel like I have gotten a lot out of this, and I feel like this is, as a game designer, like this will inform my taste going forward.
Yeah. It's interesting you mention like Pathologic as a great example for another game that I've played, where the Pathologic just grinds you down sometimes, and Fear and Hunger does that too. And the fact that it does grind you down sometimes makes some of the experience more meaningful than it ever could have been if it didn't hit you with all that bullshit. There were plenty of times in Pathologic 2 where I had to reload to like hours before to undo the mistakes that I made and try to do better next time. But the knowledge of how to do better next time helped me progress, but then also like helped me see more of like what the game is doing beyond all the ways that it was trying to fuck me over. These two games are very similar in that way. And so like, I think there's a certain point that some people can get to with games like this, where a game that didn't throw that bullshit at them will not reach that ultimate point for some people. For some people, overcoming this becomes more compelling and a more interesting experience than playing a game that is like good by like more traditional standards, we'll say. Like, I just finished replaying I think Outer Wilds is a good example of this. I just finished playing the DLC for Outer Wilds, and Outer Wilds like is kind of frustrating sometimes. You die a lot of times just messing around and experimenting in that game. And the knowledge that you accumulate about how the universe in Outer Wilds works makes that game so incredible for a lot of people. And like, I don't think Fear and Hunger is nearly as elegant as Outer Wilds is in that respect, but you can have that same experience. So like that recommendation is that like that experience is there, and I got like a taste of it. Like, I respect Fear and Hunger a lot more than I enjoyed it. And I didn't like fully get into it in that way, but I see what's there. The same way I saw it with Void Stranger. I see what's there. So it's like the recommendation is like everyone should be aware that that quality is there in Fear and Hunger. But a lot of people are going to play it and be like, this game doesn't teach me anything. This is bullshit. Fuck this game. And I'm not going to disagree with those people because it is bullshit a lot of the time. And you just have to have a tolerance for it and a desire to like keep pushing on through it. Same kind of thing we talked about in the Pathologic 2 episode. So like you said, very qualified recommendation, plus the content warnings, of course. But it is undeniably like a super cool game. We've talked for an hour and like 40 minutes now. We have not scratched the surface of how deep some of this stuff goes, which is really interesting. And not just like how deep the dungeon goes, literally, like mechanically, there's a lot more going on than we just left it out because number one, it's a lot, but number two, it's there for you to discover. So, super cool game. Recommended to anyone who's not like immediately put off by the content warnings. Like, it's not expensive. Like, try it out. if you think that you have the tolerance for it.
It's like $8 on Steam.
Yeah, like full price, like $8. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the sequel's like $11. So, yeah. Okay, well, we've talked a lot non-spoilerly. We've talked so long I'm making up words and conjugations now. So, before spoilers, we always do our housekeeping. And as I said at the top of the show, Adam is a game designer, among many other things. You can find a lot of Adam's work on his itch page, but I will let Adam tell you about the work that you can find there.
Yeah. I have taken a pretty big step back online. So if you know how to reach me, then you know how to reach me. But otherwise, you can find my games on bucceri.itch.io. That is boo like ghost, cherry like fruit. I have made a bunch of stuff. I've made board games. I've made 5 tabletop games, including my flagship tabletop game, Enter the Survival Horror, a Forged into the Dark RPG inspired by Resident Evil. It's cool. And now currently I am delving into the world of video games. So there is active development, and probably between me recording this episode and this episode airing, there will be new stuff
Hell yeah.
published.
Very cool. Well, if you like games, it seems like Adam's got all your bases covered. Video games, tabletop, we got both kinds here on the itch page. So I'll make sure to throw a link to it down in the show notes so people can find it, whatever's interesting to them. I'm interested to check out the video game. And we've talked before about Enter the Survival Horror. I have not played it, but I have read the content in it. I did buy it. And it looks like a very cool game. So cool stuff. And I love to see the different directions that your creativity is taking you.
All kinds of different directions. Yeah. I never know where I'm going to end up.
Right. So again, there's links down in the show notes to the itch.io page, and I encourage you to check it out. Maybe as the music is playing us through the spoiler break upcoming. Real quick, I do have a Discord server. I would love for people to join if you'd like to come in and talk about Fear and Hunger. We do have, channels for talking about the games that are on the podcast. But besides that, we're also just a welcoming and active community of people in there. And we'd love to have you join. So there's an invite to the Discord in the show notes. And I did the rest of my plugs before. So without any further ado, we will listen to music ? From Fear and Hunger. And then when we come back, it will be full spoiler time. All right, before we get to full spoilers for Fear and Hunger, a quick announcement about a guest appearance I did and the customary thank yous. I recently guested on an Indie Impressions episode of the Pre-Order Bonus podcast to talk about Rain World. That's right, I'm talking about Rain World on a podcast again. I joined Jake over there for a great discussion about the game. You can hear it right now on the Pre-Order Bonus Patreon page. It's a show worth supporting, and it will be on the public feed at a later time, but you want to get in now, and I think you will, check out the Pre-Order Bonus Patreon page. I'll put a link down in the show notes for that. And speaking of Patreon, here are some wonderful folks who help support the show over there. A big thank you goes out to Chris Nelson, Zulgeek, Chris Copleen, Eric Guess, Rick Firestone, Nick Ficori, Soccer, Cupcake, Kyle, Christian S., Matt aka Stormageddon, JD, Doug Leaf, Jason Emery, Brian Skirsha, Jenny E., Marcus O'Neill, Stefan, Drellish, Rob Smith, Rigamort, Sil Canet, Levi, John E., Aliasi, Joseph Hooper, Yorkie Duval, Aaron, Squill, Alan K., and many more. Thank you all for your support over there. It means a lot to me, and if anyone out there would like to join them, you can do so at patreon.com/realdavejackson. You will get some treats in return, and, of course, my everlasting love and respect. It's that simple, folks. Once again, patreon.com/realdavejackson is the place. And with that being said, let's go back to full spoiler time for Fear and Hunger. All right, we're back. It's full spoiler time for Fear and Hunger. And two quick disclaimers at the top here. Number one, not a chronological walk through the game. So if you're like halfway through, we're probably going to spoil ending stuff very soon. So come back when you're done, or accept the spoilers that are coming. The other thing is, I want to make a point to mention, in case there are like big Fear and Hunger lore people here listening, that like maybe you came to the show because you found this episode. I love that you're here, but I really don't know shit about the story of Fear and Hunger, and I am by no means an expert, and I'm not going to pretend to be. Adam knows a lot more about it than I do, but I don't think Adam's going to claim to be an expert either. So we're going to talk as two people who played the game to varying degrees, but just know this is not the explainer for Fear and Hunger. So with that out of the way, one of the big mysteries, the first big mysteries that everyone's going to come across is you're going to find a girl locked in a dog cage, it looks like, in the dungeon's early area, the first level, a couple doors in. And you find a way to get the girl out of the cage, and that is where the mystery starts, because you don't know who she is. You don't know what you're supposed to do with her. She's just following you. And I managed to keep her alive until the end of the game, which was a bit of a struggle. And I did find a way to make her be useful in combat. She was never like super useful, except in the big salmon fish boss fight. She was very helpful in that. I still don't know her significance in the story because nothing happened with her in my ending, but I did keep her alive. I felt like that was a victory.
Well, first of all, that is a victory. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Second of all, like, so we're going to talk about both of these characters, but like they are strongly connected. So it's like,
and Lagarde,
the girl and Lagarde. So Lagarde, for people who heard me talk about Berserk, Lagarde is basically Griffith. He's just basically Griffith.
Okay.
Lagarde is kind of the nexus point of the narrative stuff. All four of your main characters are coming to the dungeon because of Lagarde. He has been imprisoned at not quite the bottom, but pretty far down there. And he is a man of prophecy, right? He is basically destined for greatness, and he is here pursuing that greatness, though you're not really aware of that at the time. It's not explicitly stated, but the strong implication is that the girl is the daughter of Lagarde and one of the new gods.
Oh,
and
okay.
as a result, like the girl has like this latent potential in her that's actually like really significant. So when you are going around, you meet the pocket cat. God, I'm so glad we're past the spoiler wall, because like I've been holding so much in.
What the fuck is the pocket cat?
What the fuck is the pocket cat?
I know, I don't know what you're talking about right now.
Did you not meet the pocket cat?
I don't think so.
Oh my God.
Is that the guy who you can sell the girl to?
That is the guy who you can sell the girl to.
Okay. All right. And then I did meet the pocket cat.
Okay. You encountered him, and he was just a guy who was trying to buy a human child.
Yes.
Which was weird. And he was awfully flippant about it, but like it didn't have a larger picture. Did you meet the pocket cat only that one time?
Only in the cave. Yeah.
So you can have repeat encounters with him. The pocket cat is clearly something extraordinarily powerful and supernatural. It is expanded in the second game, so I will avoid giving further spoilers to that. But you can find out that it is a servant of the moon god, which you haven't even like probably heard of in this game. But
Nope.
There are a couple of small hints about it. And basically the short version is that the moon god wants the girl. And so the pocket cat is trying to repeatedly coerce you and bribe you into getting it. And it leads to this really fascinating conversation, like right before one of the final bosses. if you follow this obscure Dark Souls style NPC quest line.
Yeah.
I've been rambling, so I'm trying to remember where I was going with this. But the point is, like, the potential of this girl means that, unlike the other people who can go and become new gods, like your characters that you play as can become new gods at the end of it. But it's eventually revealed that new gods are just kind of super powered guys. They're closer to like superheroes or, immortals than true gods. The old gods of this world are like these primal forces of nature that you simply cannot contend with. They are beyond mortal. Like, it's the difference between, like, in Bloodborne, you can kill the moon presence, and you're just like, oh, that was scary, but, like, I could kill it. But if you read, like, the actual Lovecraft mythos, then these things are, like, so far beyond human comprehension. But because of the nature of the girl being, like, this half god, half human and stuff, in one of the canon endings, she is able to ascend to become an ascended god, similar to Almer, who is our Jesus Christ figure. Jesus is in this game. Just straight up Jesus. This is all... You should cut this from the podcast, because this is me just talking about how cool it is.
No, it's all right. I did legitimately want to know, like, what is the point of the girl as a character? Because she was just kind of there in my playthrough, and I couldn't tell you anything about, like, her role in the story. So that's good to know.
So Lagarde is our ambitious man who got himself captured on purpose for the purpose of delving into the ancient city of the gods and ascending and gaining power.
Right.
But the girl is, like, basically, if you do this other side quest and you take her to the corpse of the god of the depths, one of the old gods whose influence has, like, waned at this point and is barely remembered, then she will basically merge with the old god, become an old god. It's hard to say, but she will become the god of fear and hunger, which is this new god which will, like, kind of guide the destiny of mankind for the next many centuries. Which is a really important part of leading into Fear and Hunger too.
Gotcha.
So the point of that is that, like, we've got our main characters, they've got their stuff, but, like, there are, like, these grand machinations that are playing out in the background that are really not clear unless you're seeking it out. Yeah.
So I guess part of the reason I didn't see that story content is that, like, I assume Lagarde has to be alive for that.
Not for that. So
for that one. Okay.
First of all, the first time that I got to Lagarde, it was 4 hours into a run. I had put, 17 hours into the game in total. I had clawed there. And then the fact that the game was like, prank, there was a time limit this whole time. Yep. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Okay. How can I do this? I bet I could get there in an hour. And then I did all of the cool stuff, and I got there in under an hour, and he was still dead. And I was like, are you for real right now?
So it's 30 minutes, right?
30 minutes, which is a tight time limit.
Yeah. I had thought, so I didn't do this. And I got there about 2 hours into my playthrough, 2.5 hours, something like that, of game clock, not, Steam clock. So he was dead. And I thought by this point I had discovered, I think, some routes to get there faster. Yeah. Basically, I think all I needed to do was get the book. I forget what it is, but the book that makes the bookshelf slide so you can get back into that secret forest area. You go into the tree, run away from all the shit down there. There's a way for you to fall through the floor down into the level where Lagarde is. And I feel like I could get that within, 15 minutes or something. Yeah. If I basically just run from all combat, and then get lucky finding the thing that I needed when I need to. And then you can get there. there's a couple monsters you would have to like get past to get to the jail cell where Lagarde is, but I thought I could do it. But I didn't. I didn't start that new game and didn't do it. But like, I think I could. That's about as I'm satisfied by the fact that I think I could.
Yes, that is one of the best ways to do it. There, of course, are multiple ways to do it, but the path through the Grove, which requires an explosive vial, which requires you to either get lucky or to find the crafting book and then to find the ingredients, or to, there's a couple different ways that you can approach solving that problem. But like when I had that epiphany of like, wait a second, I just need this one random drop and then I can like shortcut straight there. That became a really cool challenge run of trying to figure out how to do that. And then once you do, Lagarde is a great party member. He's, very strong in combat. He has an ability called Leg Sweep, which destroys all legs and lower extremities.
That's good.
It's extremely good because we haven't talked about combat spoilers, but like debatably the most effective tactic against almost all enemies is to cut off both of their legs, which will cause them to lose their balance, and then their head will be vulnerable.
Right.
This is really hard to do because they're usually trying to kill you, but having an ability that can, shortcut to that point is obviously hugely valuable. However, this is also this is secretly a comedy game at points. And so I want to give you one of my favorite things.
Okay.
Leg Sweep. It doesn't do damage. It destroys legs. Okay. So if there is a leg, it destroys the leg. For reasons that I don't understand, doors are programmed as legs. Therefore, when you encounter a door that you can't open, if you have this one special ability, it's a universal key that'll open any door in the game.
That's amazing.
Because doors are legs.
You always hear about weird programming quirks of our engine doesn't support this, so we coded this other thing as this thing that
totally
works. Yeah. That's a very funny one though.
It's very funny. And then opens up all kinds of crazy possibilities. So if you're in the opening part of the game and you find an empty scroll and a quill, you can, type in the empty scroll is the most powerful item in the game.
Yeah.
It allows you to get almost any item or learn almost any ability. It's basically like if in D&D, it would be like a scroll of wishes, which is crazy. And once you figure that out and learn how to use it, you can really bust the game wide open.
That was one of those moments that I thought was a really good, moment where the game actually taught me how to use that scroll. Because I had found some empty scrolls and I had found some quills, but then I found a room that had a book open and, it gave me an empty scroll next to it. And then the book that was open said, "Oh Lord, give me enlightenment," I think it was.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, there's a scroll right next to it. Let me write that. And it gives me a scroll of enlightenment. And suddenly I can save the game. No coin flip.
Huge.
Whenever I want to set a checkpoint. Basically, that's one of those moments where I was like, this game does actually teach you in very cool, but still not saying hey, dummy, try opening that empty scroll and write, "This is how we save our games." In this, one of the dark priests would say that or something.
Yeah.
Sometimes the game does teach you in cool ways like that. I felt like that was a pretty rare example, but it turned out to be one of my favorite memories in the game because suddenly I know how these scrolls work. I know what to do generally. And then the puzzle becomes, instead of saying, "Oh Lord, give me enlightenment," what else would work?
Exactly.
And I assume there's a book in the game that has other shit to teach you to write.
So there's another scroll that exists diegetically within the world, which says, "Oh Lord, teach hurting."
Okay.
And so with that, it's you can get items or you can learn skills, right? That's what it's telling you. So if you go to the Hexen, which is the magic board where you can learn new abilities, that'll tell you the names of everything that's available, and you can teach yourself any of those abilities.
Oh, Interesting.
Ah,
It's one of those things where, again, the game. So we have a lot of different like points on this continuum where it's like the game didn't teach me directly that, but I probably should have connected that.
sure. But also, like, that requires, like, genuine deductive reasoning. That requires,
Yeah.
like, a real leap of logic that games don't often ask of you.
I never found the other scroll that says, "Oh Lord, teach me." So I thought "give me" was the only verb that you
Yeah.
could put in there.
Yeah. And both are important epiphanies, you know?
Yeah. No, you telling me about the basically like heal the entire party for like 30 HP thing from one of the scrolls. I used my last empty scroll on that, and it's the only reason I could beat the game is with that spell.
The heal all spell, first of all, difficult to get if you're not using a scroll. But also just like incredibly powerful in this game. As long as you have some booze to give you your sanity back, like it opens up a lot of possibilities.
Yep.
But anyways, the reason why I brought up the scrolls was because if you go, "Oh Lord, teach," leg sweep or whatever it's called, early in the game, then you can just go and bust down that door in the jail cell and just do a straight shot down to Lagarde.
That's right. True.
So it's very cool, just the way, like, again, like all of these improvised plans, like it's constantly asking you to make the best of a bad situation. Really, really fun to me. So
yeah, absolutely. Speaking of fun, at your behest, I checked the walls in the flesh sewer the
Great
first
choice.
time I fell down there. Because the first time I fell down there was is a very much like a dead dove do not eat type situation where like you crawl to like, a toilet, such as toilets exist in this game.
Yes.
And it's like, do you want to jump in? And I was like, well, yeah, I think I do want to jump in.
It's a video game, sure.
Yeah. And so you fall down, break both your legs, and your character's crawling down there. And then you check the walls of the flesh sewer and you find the headless wizard in there. And that begins this, like, for anyone who didn't played, a headless wizard. It's a head and like a spinal column.
Yeah. Severed head.
Yeah. Pops out of this wall of tangled bodies and stuff like that. And you get into a combat with it, and there's like something, it says something is approaching from the darkness, and it's like real shadowy. You can barely see what's coming. And then as the turns in the combat go, and as you're probably panicking because you can't kill this thing, the wizard head is like laughing at you as you're doing this. And this thing is getting closer, and it's like a Final Fantasy behemoth or like a Balrog or some shit. Yeah. It's like really big. And then what happened in my game is it gets really close to you. It crushes you, kills you in one hit, and you get a game over. But I remember from the Super Eye Patch Wolf video, you can actually recruit the headless wizard onto your team.
Yes.
So did you do that?
Yes, I have done that. And there's a lot of unique content.
I'm sure there is.
He's it's very funny because everyone else in the game is kind of talking in, kind of vaguely medieval speech. Like, there's a little bit of like an elevated English to like the presentation of it. And then this wizard is just the most foul-mouthed, like potty mouth. Like he's just cursing up a storm. He has a very modern cadence to his dialect. It is just a real asshole. He's just such a douchebag. But yeah, you can basically the yellow wizards in the mines. If you talk to them, you can ask them like who they serve, and then you can get a talisman that you can present to him. And basically you show it to him, and then he continues to summon the creature and laugh at you. And then like right before it's going to crush you, he's like, all right, you seem okay. Let's go kill some gods. I hate the gods.
Hell yeah. Speaking of a moment, the first time you come across those yellow wizards in the mines and they just like blow all your limbs off immediately.
Well, they blow your limbs off in the overworld, which shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah. It's just like, that's one of those things where it's like, I was rushing into this corridor because I want to, move through and see what's there. And then suddenly there's like this sound and people's limbs start exploding, and that's my game. Everyone is fucked.
Rush those guys down immediately.
Yep. Or have have a couple of key items that prevent limb loss, and then you'll
Also
be okay.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many like interesting and weird combat encounters, and again, like they're all puzzles, and so like it feels like there's a little story attached to most of the enemies.
Right.
Like here's another example. So in the mines, there is the salmon snake, which is this like axolotl dragon that you can encounter, and it starts off as just being like kind of a tough optional boss fight, and you're like, oh, okay, this is cool, but like this game has taught me not to kill stuff, so I shouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an empty soul stone, you can get what is arguably the best item in the game, the best accessory, which is the salmon snake soul, which will prevent limb loss. And so that's a huge incentive to do it. However, it also gives you a weird stone crown.
Yeah.
And if you wear the stone crown and you go to the cave village, everyone there is like, oh shit, he's wearing the crown, and they just bow to you.
Oh.
And they let you take the cube with no resistance.
Wow. That's wild.
It is. So again, like this game isn't an immersive sim, but there are so many like individual little authored moments that it has like that feeling of like emergence and discovery.
Mm-hmm.
That it's just many times that I'm playing it and I'm like, oh, it's so cool.
Yeah. The salmon snake soul only came off toward the end of the game when I found the item that restored like 10 mind every turn in combat.
Yeah.
Because I needed to power that heal spell. But until then, that stayed on. And you find another item that like another character can wear, and suddenly everyone's limbs are going to be okay, which is a good feeling. Speaking of puzzles, one of the biggest or combat puzzles, we'll say, one of the biggest ones that I did not engage with is the crow mauler. I never fought it. Well, that's a lie. I never survived a fight against it. So then on my winning runs, I ran away from it. You know, basically as soon as I saw it kind of creeping in, I'd be like, I got to find an area transition to get rid of this thing. So you fought it. So what's your strategy for fighting it? But also, I know you get a key from it. I don't know what that key does.
The crow mauler is this game's stalker enemy. He doesn't appear until you've gotten so far into the dungeon, so he's not there from moment one. Very Pyramid Head inspired. And he is a real sumbitch to fight. He has an attack that will just instantly kill a character with no coin flip or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, coin flips are unfair, and then it's like, well, here's one that doesn't have a coin flip.
Yeah.
How's that? How you like them apples? But I've never found like a trick to fighting him. It's just that like I will get enough power to feel confident in doing it. You can blind him, which makes him less dangerous, but always a risky fight. Save before you fight him.
Yeah.
But if you kill him, then you get the crow key, which you can take all the way back to the beginning of the game, and you can unlock that one weird crow door that you couldn't open before. And that will lead you into this enormous pile of corpses with a sentient talking sword whispering sweet nothings in your ear.
Okay.
So basically, if you want to get the Soul Calibur from Soul Calibur, it's like just about the most powerful, one-handed weapon in the game. It's very good. However, if there are like certain areas in the game where if you enter them and you have the sword equipped and your sanity is low, you will just black out and wake up having killed all of your party members.
Oh, that's fun.
It is fun.
So it is the Soul Blade.
Yeah, it's the Soul Calibur from Soul Calibur. It's the Soul Edge, actually.
The Soul Edge, yeah.
But yeah, the game is just full of like explicit references. It's not being shy about where it's pulling from, but it still does really cool stuff with it. And even within that, there are ways to get around it. So if you have the necromancy spell and you summon a skeleton, you can give this skeleton it, and it doesn't have a mind to lose. It can't go insane.
That's true.
So that's great. You can also give it to Lagarde, who mysteriously has no soul and therefore cannot be corrupted by it.
Fair enough.
And also, it's behind a door, and as we've previously established, doors are legs.
Yes.
So you don't actually have to kill the Crow Mauler in order to get the sword, if you have leg sweep as an ability, or have a full team and can just do a fuckload of damage and can just brute force that door down.
Yeah, that's another thing. I was never able to brute force a door, but like I figured you could because you go to the combat, combat screen.
You absolutely can. It's really difficult with fewer than 3 characters. And then, of course, wooden doors are going to be less durable than metal doors.
Yeah.
But you can do that. That is also pretty cool. Yeah, that's one of the several secret weapons. In the Grove, there's also like a haunted katana with a spectral assassin who will hunt you down if you steal it.
Oh, no, that's a different one. I was thinking of the one in the mines where if you try and I think you take a sword and like a ghost knight attacks you if you try to take the sword.
There's a different ghost knight in the mines, but there's also a sword that's like, it's a sword in the stone situation. Like it's embedded in the wall, but because it's mine, if you pull it out, the ceiling just collapses and kills you.
Yeah, I did that.
I've not yet figured out how to get that. My current suspicion, which I was going to try to do on this most recent playthrough, was to get a skeleton to pull it out. Like to use necromancy to summon something expendable.
That was another one where like I pulled the sword out of the wall crumbled, everyone died, and I was like, well, I guess I didn't know what I expected. That was a load-bearing sword.
That was truly that is the dead dove don't open.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
There's quite a few of those in this game, for real. I wanted to do a little bit of like lightning round other things that we found, because I think, not to say that we covered all of the more involved things, but there's a lot of stuff I wanted to just like shout out, whether it's like a little victory, something that was like monumental in helping me finish the game, or just like, hey, the harvest men are pretty fucked up. And the first time a harvest man killed me, don't like that animation one bit.
Harvest men are wholly unacceptable. I cannot suffer a harvest man to live. No harvest man will escape my sight. They all must die.
It was funny because like, I think the first one that I found was dead, or it looked like it was dead. And I think I either bumped it or interacted with it and had to fight it. And then it, it did the penis torture because I lost. And then the next time I found one that was walking, and they're actually not that hard to kill once you figure out the order of operations. But you, like you said, you absolutely must figure out the order of operations because you cannot let them live.
No.
They all have to go. So that's probably the one enemy that was like satisfying to figure out how to kill, but also like if I see one, I gotta take it out. Yeah.
They're unacceptable in all regards. Here's a fun detail from the Terror and Starvation run.
Okay.
If you are playing on Terror and Starvation difficulty, and you have the girl in your party, and you are in the City of the Gods, and you walk past like this weird hole in a wall, a harvest man will appear and snatch the girl, and then escape into the wall, and she's just gone.
Oh shit.
But then later you can go and you'll be walking the streets of the city and you will find the harvest man just sitting there, just like gently petting the hair of the girl. And it's, nothing bad happens, but right. I have never killed anything so fast in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty creepy.
It's very creepy. Like, Yeah, those terror and starvation, like, little details of just like, oh, the girl just got abducted, like, out of nowhere. Like,
Yeah.
there's some really good shocks. Also, the crow mauler bursts out of a wall right in front of a guard's cage, like the Kool-Aid man.
Oh shit. That's brutal.
So watch out for that.
What else is there that you wanted to shout out? Now that we're in the lightning round.
A couple of details, like, after so much, distress and tension, it was really fun to get to the end of the game and just be like, wait a second, there's jokes here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was actually, like, part of me, like, feeling good about, like, recommending the game, is like realizing that the developer has a sense of humor and isn't just trying to be, hardcore and edgelordy. So the two things are, one, there's a secret chamber in the City of the Gods where you can find the corpse of Almer. So basically, the true body of Jesus Christ is in the dungeon. Mm-hmm. And if you have the ability, you can go up and it's like cast necromancy, and you're like, oh my god, like, let's just think about the implications of this for a second. What is this going to do? So you cast necromancy on the gigantic nude body of Almer. And then it fades to black, and then it comes back up, and he's still dead, but now he has a boner.
That's not where I thought that was going. That's pretty funny.
Not at all. It really caught me off guard. I got a good laugh out of me.
That's good.
And then the second thing is, when you beat the game, I didn't notice this because I was just kind of like skipping through the credits, but at the very end, it tells you, if you type in your character's name at the start as School Kid, it will unlock the Dungeon Knights dating game side mode,
right?
Which is shockingly fleshed out.
Is it?
Yeah. It's a whole ass extra game mode where you are in high school and the severed wizard head is your asshole teacher, and you've got to figure out what's going on because prom's coming up.
Oh no.
And you could, like, give the crow mauler awkward gifts and stuff. It's genuinely very funny. So I was really delighted just by, like, after all the oppressive darkness, being like, no, we can relax a little. We can loosen up.
I was just talking about this with Kay on the Silent Hill 3 episode. That's a very Silent Hill thing to do. You beat the game and they're like, all right, so here's the blooper reel, or like, you get a lightsaber for New Game Plus. Like, we're going to let our hair down a little bit. That's kind of funny.
The sexy beam or whatever it is that Heather can shoot.
Oh yeah. And the magical girl transformation in Silent Hill 3. Yeah. So yeah, I remember seeing that. I never tried it out. But I did see like pictures of it when looking for screenshots, because people agreed with you that it's like fun and funny and worth checking out. So that's cool.
At the very least as a novelty, because like all of the characters have like not quite anime style, but more anime style portraits. So if you've ever wanted to see a tsundere crow mauler, like, this is your chance.
I didn't know I wanted to see that, but I kind of do now. My lightning round is just like a quick list of like some things that I discovered that helped and kind of played into my, like I said, emergent narrative of Fear and Hunger. Learning the order of operations to perfectly fight the jailers was great, because it's very empowering in those opening levels to just be like, the jailers are no problem anymore. They're fine. Yeah. I still didn't fight a lot of the other stuff, like the little flying like imp things in the jail. I didn't fight those, but the jailers were fine. Learning how to deal with the status effects. I didn't mention in the non-spoiler part, but the bone saw sound effect is pretty fucked up and gross. And I use the bone saw pretty often in my game. Learning to recruit Moonless was like the thing that like saved my playthrough.
Very good dog.
Yeah. Unfortunately had to use the bone saw on Moonless in the ancient city, but Moonless, Darcy, that's her name, right? The knight.
I've heard her name pronounced both Darce and Dark,
Okay.
and I don't know which is correct.
I don't agree with either of those, so I'm going to say Darcy. Um, it was my character, Darcy, Moonless, and I forget the fourth one that was in my party that
Was
survived.
it the girl?
The girl, yeah, the girl. That was why I forgot, because she mainly defended and threw items in combat instead of fighting.
Yeah.
Those were my 4 that made it until mostly through the end. Moonless died fighting the big brain boss fight.
Yep.
But the other 3 survived to the end. So that was my party. And then the last kind of like main thing, run saving moment, was everyone was in like horrible shape. And I didn't have a lot of healing items. And I found the Worshippers of Sylvain, I think it's called.
Yes.
And jumping in the orgy fully healed everybody.
Yeah.
And I've heard that if you do it more than once, you can get into a bad situation, but I only did it the one time.
Yeah. So the bunny cult of Sylvain, they're just really going at it.
Yes, they are.
With absolutely no ambiguity in the sprite art.
Nope. There's like the different positions that are like drawn and animated and stuff. Like, had fun with it when they were, creating them.
Absolutely. Yes, that will be a party full heal for health. It won't restore limbs or hunger, but that's still huge. And then you can do it as many times as you want, but every time after the first time is a coin flip. And if you lose that coin flip, then you get a non-standard game over.
Yeah, because your character basically like loses themselves to the pleasures of the flesh or whatever and never leaves.
Yes, correct. And then similarly with the wolf cult, who worship the god of destruction. Did you not encounter that?
The wolf cult.
Oh, yeah. The wolf masks are down in part of the mines, and they are engaging in what's functionally a cannibalism orgy.
Fun?
Yeah, pretty fun. And you can join in that in order to restore all hunger for all party members, of course.
Okay, makes sense.
And then for both of them, it increases your affinity with the gods, which can be used for Hexen unlocking abilities, because you didn't figure that out.
That was a mechanic that I never figured out. I thought, I was like, okay, show love to the gods at those symbols on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't seem to do anything. And then like, I got to a point late in the game where I was like, I wonder, like, could I do something new at the Hexen? Or I had a soul stone.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't find a lot of them. But I was so far from the Hexen things.
Yeah.
And like, I had it probably built up in my head too much that it would be too hard to backtrack out of the ancient city to go back to the nearest Hexen that I knew about.
Mm-hmm.
I think I may have even killed everything in the path to and from, but I didn't go back. And I never was able to fast travel, which I understand you can do, but I never learned how. I read in the wiki, but never did in the game.
Yeah, you can do some interesting stuff at the ritual circles. You said that you never found a use for, show love or whatever. What that does is if you have a consenting party member,
right,
you can have sex with them, which will then, in a very literal sense, the ritual is the marriage of flesh. And you will combine into one new character.
Right. It's called marriage, right? I saw it in the video, the Super Eye Patch Wolf video.
Yeah. And that is one of the only ways in the game that you can restore limbs. So if you've got 2 characters and they both only have like one limb, then you can make an omelet out of some broken eggs.
Yeah. I never fucked with the ritual circles, and like there's the ones where you like the options also where you can pray to the different gods. And like, I thought I read that if you pray 3 times to one god, you would get like a point on the Hexen table or something.
Correct.
But I must have only done it twice, or maybe it needed to be 3 in a row. Whatever it was, it didn't work. I used the Hexen table one time to give one ability to the mercenary on like whatever their standard like skill tree thing is. And I never used it again.
There's some cool stuff in the Hexen tree. It is difficult because you have to really know how to navigate to an ability. You have to have a soul stone, which is not a common resource. You have to be in one of the places. So like there's definitely barriers, but there is cool stuff.
Mhm.
One on my most recent playthrough, I'm playing as the Dark Priest, and during his choose your own backstory, I chose that I worshipped the god of the depths, which
Mhm.
is really hard to get affinity for in any other way because the world has basically forgotten this elder god. So when you
Mhm.
went and you got the cube of the depths and you saw that huge, like weird yellow face that was in the walls, that was the corpse of the dead god that the dungeon is built on top of.
Mhm.
So I had, this skill tree branch that I never played with, and I unlocked an ability called Mastery over Insects because the god of the depths has dominion over vermin
Okay.
and crows. So the crow mauler is like associated with the god of the depths.
Hmm.
But have you been going through the game and you see like a little bug on the ground and then it scurries off? Though you can talk to all of them. You can learn to talk to bugs.
That's cool.
They have little hints and stuff.
Nice.
So that was really fascinating.
Yeah, sounds like it. This is one of the cool parts about this game is like how many like things are in there.
Yeah.
And even though I played through the game with a walkthrough, it still didn't show me half of the stuff that you're talking about. So
Yeah, absolutely.
wild. Yeah.
Here's my last one. This is maybe my favorite like individual beat because
Mhm.
I it happened totally organically. It was the run where I had the wizard in my party, the severed wizard's head.
Mhm.
Um, his whole shtick is that he hates the new gods. He wants to kill the new gods. He has a real chip on his shoulder.
Mhm.
So when you go to the city of the gods, there's that one tower, which I don't know if you interacted with it, but it flashes you to the hall of the new gods, where there's hundreds of new gods throughout the histories that have had
Hmm.
their time in the sun and then they retire to this like ancient hall, basically. So it's like
No.
this Valhalla full of forgotten gods,
Okay. No,
basically.
I never found that.
And within that, you can ask the gods 3 questions about anything. And by that, what I mean is that it gives you a text prompt and you manually type in whatever you want to know about.
Huh.
And there
Okay.
are hundreds of different things that they'll say, but also it's a huge pain in the ass because it's case sensitive and
Yeah.
you're going to type things wrong. Oops. But it is really neat. So I was like,
Mhm.
asking about the girl and getting hints about the girl having this special destiny, before I got that ending.
Mhm.
So it was really cool to like get little bits of insight. But I had the severed wizard head in my party, and I was like, he hates the new gods. Here we are talking to the new gods. What if I asked the new gods about this guy? So I typed his name in, and the new gods were like, that fucking idiot. That guy sucks. And then your severed head wizard buddy chimes up and he's like, hey, fuck you, bud. And he sets a new god on fire and just incinerates one. And presumably they're immortal and will continue burning forever. Um,
That's pretty good.
and I was like, damn, what a cool organic little detail that like
Mhm.
so many things had to line up in order for me to see this bit.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah, that is super cool. I never even found that tower in the ancient city. I wasn't really like exploring without a plan in the ancient city. Again, like I don't know why. I think honestly is because the game was so effective at making me stressed
Mhm.
that even though in my heart I knew if I die over here, it's not going to be hard to get back here because I got here once, I can do it again. That's kind of how the game works.
Yeah.
But I never, like, especially in the ancient city, I was in walkthrough town there because I just had no idea what I was supposed to be doing there. The only thing that I really stumbled into naturally in the ancient city is the place where you fight the big brain god. I forget their name.
Their name is Valtiel, which is interesting because that's also the name of the character who keeps turning the cranks in Silent Hill 3.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Weird. Also very similar to the name of Faye's mech in Xenogears. Yeah. I tried looking up what that name means when I was researching Silent Hill 3. I couldn't find, maybe I was like typing in the wrong thing, but I couldn't find, because I was obviously like, it's probably like something in the Old Testament or some shit, right? Like they get a lot of names from there.
I'm digging up some old knowledge, so it might be incorrect, but I believe it's something to like attendant of God or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's got the L suffix, which indicates an angel.
Yeah. So that was the one thing I found in the ancient city, like naturally. The rest of it was walkthrough stuff. And I definitely didn't figure out the dialogue boss battle with that thing naturally, because there's no way I found all those books that you would need to, and then like remembered what was in them in order to like do that. But it is cool that there is a dialogue boss battle, because fuck trying to fight that thing normally.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, here's another lightning round, just like fun fact. Within the lore of Fear and Hunger, the continent of the Americas has only been discovered recently, and it is a haunted, blasted hellscape full of demons and nightmares that's like unlivable.
Yeah, fair enough.
You do not go there.
That's I did notice similarities to the real world with like the names of countries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Vinland.
There are analogs to the Earth world, but it's also just flavor, basically. Like there's not really that much more significance aside from like drawing some parallels and like giving you a little historical grounding.
All right. I don't want to like go through what all the endings are, but I do want to just say for anyone following along, like what ending I got and like what the endings entailed story-wise, at least like what I saw. So basically we've talked about it before, but like you go down through the dungeon, through the mines, through like the lower levels of the dungeon, and then there's like two things. The first one I did not totally figure out, but there seems to be some kind of eldritch being that has like hearts scattered around, and you can kill them. And I assume that killing all of them contributes to an ending.
Yes. So those are organs for the God of the Depths. So you've met the God of the Depths. You stumble upon two of the organs pretty naturally.
One's next to Lagarde's jail cell.
Yeah. And one is where you can find the new god Francois, the dominating.
Right. Yeah.
This golden kind of conquistador character. But the third one is hidden in the grove, that weird tree that you need the explosive vial to get to. And if you destroy all of those organs, then the mouth of the God of the Depths opens and reveals a whole new dungeon.
Fun. Yeah. So I think I only killed the two. And, you get the message after you kill the ones that are like, it feels like something's still alive that's connected to it. So I was like, okay, guess I didn't do everything I needed here. The other discovery is that below the dungeon is this ancient city of the gods. Yes. And it introduces this new mechanic where you can switch from the present, where it's all dark and decrepit, to the past version of the city, where it's all lit up and there's people walking around. You can't really like talk to all of them, but it's lit up. Like you just really appreciate light, you know, and being able to see.
It's incredible. You're deeper than you've ever been, and suddenly you're walking in sunlight.
Yeah, exactly.
But to me that feels like a very explicit like Anne Orlando quote, where you have the illusion of the Golden City, and then the reality of like the decrepit present.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good call
But this might be more literal time travel. It's hard to
Yeah.
say exactly what's happening, but you are
Yeah, you
traveling
put a
between
cube
these
into
two.
a machine that switches you between the two versions. So who the hell knows what that machine does?
Yeah.
And then in the ancient city, basically you have to collect 3, at least in the path that I did for the ending I did, I had to kill 3 gods and get their souls to, I forget what exactly it was, but I had 3 boss fights against 3 gods. One of them was like the possible dialogue boss fight, which was fun. One of them was with Francois.
Yes.
And that boss fight was funny because if you insult him during the fight, he'll just like lose his mind and not be able to fight you.
Yes.
He'll just like, if you say something like you're a puppet, you're being controlled, and he'll spend like 4 turns just being like, who do you think is controlling me?
Yeah.
He's like really mad about it. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. And the hint for that is given to you by the older version of himself.
Right. The present version of him, where
Yeah.
he like tells you to go back in time and kill his younger brash self.
Yeah.
Because it turns out being an immortal god sucks.
Shockingly.
Yeah. And then the third one is I forget what they call it, the tortured
one.
The tormented one. Yeah. That one was really hard. It was like an adventure game puzzle I would have never figured out, just straight up.
I didn't find that one too bad. It's basically like an order of operations puzzles where he's in the middle of this like elaborate wheel thing. Like he's like got a biblically accurate torture device that he's in the center of.
Sorry, I like not the boss fight, but the thing you have to do to do it with like, you have to get like a husk to bring and torture it, or you can sacrifice a party member, but I didn't want to do that.
I didn't realize that there was an alternative, and I just assumed that like, hey, it makes sense for this game to force you to kill one of your party members.
Yeah.
So sorry, Darce.
Oops. But yeah, the biblically accurate torture device is interesting. I found that fight really hard. It was harder than Francois was. Because you basically just have to fight, and it has a move called like the Wheels of Torture or something that just like instantly cripples whoever it hits.
Yeah, there's some nasty stuff towards the end.
Bad stuff.
But hopefully at that point you've built up, some momentum and are starting to kick some ass yourself.
Kind of. I mean, like I was able to fight all the harvest men that I saw, and I was able to like beat the bosses. So I was strong enough. But that fight, like the other one, Francois, I beat on the first try. The tormented one, that took several attempts. And I can only imagine it's harder if you lost a party member to create it in the first place.
Yeah, certainly.
So the ending that I got after I beat Francois, my character woke up in the void, which looks like the surface of the moon or something like that. It has this mechanic that I think really sucks, where there are dinosaurs in there.
Yeah.
Not that the dinosaurs are cool, but it has this like run and hide mechanic where you like, it'll give you pop-ups that like something is on your scent, something's drawing closer, and there's little hidey holes around the map, and you have to hop in there and hide before they get too close. Because the dinosaurs will come up and I couldn't fight them. You start that section by yourself. You have to find your party members again.
Yeah,
so
they have
that
been
makes
scattered throughout the area, and the area is very confusing, and it loops. So navigation is pretty challenging. It's intentionally disorienting.
So you know what I did during that section? I did not go find on the time when I actually beat the game. I didn't find my party members, and I just beelined to you find yourself, basically. And I don't know if that's, again, I don't know if that changed the ending that I got or not, but that was what contributed to the ending I got, was like finding my own self in that void, talking to them, and that kind of like pushed me into the ending.
Yes, so you fight a vision of yourself as a new god, which of course means that there are 4 variations of that for each of the 4 characters.
Jesus. Okay, so I can see why it would take so long to see all the endings, basically.
Well, if you're being completionist for sure.
Yeah. I don't remember fighting myself. Did I do that? Did I do that and not write it down?
Oh, what did you fight?
I don't think I fought anything. I think I found my body or like I found myself in there, and at least I wrote down in the notes, I had ascended to become a new god, and you can choose what to do.
Oh, when you find the new god version of yourself, I think you have the option to like submit to it or to fight it. So
Okay.
it's both.
I think I was so worn down by like
Mhm.
all the stuff that I had to do. Like, again, I think the early portions of the game where it's just find a way to survive and get through the dungeon's many traps and dangers, I could intuit that, or I could like not brute force it, but you know what I mean? Like I could
Mhm.
get through it, whatever it took, and learn along the way. And then like the stuff at the end went a little too far for me into like adventure game territory. And I am so bad at adventure game
Sure.
logic and like progressing these kinds of things that by the time I got to the end, I was like, what the fuck ever? Give me the credits however they come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So I didn't fight it. If that was an option, I didn't do it.
My first ending was me getting down to the bottom of the dungeons, finding Lagarde dead, and then just being like, I guess I'll leave.
Yeah, that is the ending. Yeah.
So yeah, I just left, and it's just like, you left the dungeons and it fucked you up for the rest of your life. The end.
Yeah, I'm sure
and
it
you
did.
didn't get
Yeah.
shit from it. After that, I moved heaven and earth in order to get to Lagarde in a half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then I rescued him and I brought him back up to the surface. And then I tried to leave and he was like, no, it feels like I should go deeper. And I was like, bro,
what do you mean you got to go deeper?
You're not being for real right now. We just work so hard. The reveal that like there was the whole City of the Gods, it basically like a second half of the game.
Yeah.
Afterwards, like that really blew my mind. That was like kind of a, Symphony of the Night inverted castle moment to me.
At the same time exciting, but also like, oh my God, I thought I was done. Like that kind of feeling.
Yeah, exactly. But I took Lagarde to the seat of the new gods. We killed Francois, and then of course Lagarde did his heel turn, and he was like, hey, I'm gonna fess up. I got caught on purpose. This was all part of my plan. Like, this is why I'm here. I'll never forget you, the little people who who brought me here, but now I'm going to go and immediately forget you, the little people. So he basically like goes first and then you follow. But time is weird in the void. And so when you find him, like, he's aloof and, barely remembers who you are. And, maybe centuries have passed. It's difficult to say. And he has become the king in yellow. And
not so subtle, I guess.
Not so subtle. No. Like that is like he's a new version of a character with that name. It is a cool version of that character. And he's just like this beautiful, semi-angelic version of himself, draped in yellow cloth with pale skin and like a snake draped around his shoulders. And he was just like, welcome, you've done it. Kneel before your new god. And at that point, I was broken down enough that I was just like, yeah, man, okay.
Whatever you want, dude.
So I submitted to that. That had a really interesting like ending slide talking about, his returning miraculously, becoming this figure that like unites the world through blood and conquest, and you never knowing if you made the right choice or like how big of a decision this was.
Yeah, I got one of those too. So what happened was my character became a new god, and it gives you a choice at the end of whether you want to stay in the dungeon or go out into the world. And I chose to stay because I felt like the game was basically saying like the new gods are dog shit. There should not be more new gods. So I was like, yeah, we're just going to stay here. Apparently people discovered them though later on. And then it asks you, do you want to use your power to help mankind and stop wars one time? Or do you want to create a new religion around yourself that will maybe stop wars in the future? And I was like, that's not how religions work. We're going to stop the wars this one time. And the game was like, oops, you, the people really hated you and you set humanity back to like barbaric times. So you set humanity back a long way by doing this. And then, so I was like, all right, fine, whatever. But the people eventually rose up against my character and all the new gods that are now the old gods in this timeline. And they beheaded my character. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Like, yeah, they probably should. Nothing good comes out of the dungeons down here. So cool. That was my ending. Is one of those where it's like, basically anything could have happened during that ending slide. And I would have been like, yeah, all right. That sounds like the end of Fear and Hunger to me.
Yeah. It is really a thing where like, by the time you get to the end of either of the games, you are so beaten down and the games are so relentlessly bleak. Like they're not going to give you a happy ending now. We all know that. But some of them are interesting endings. And then the most significant other ending that I got, which I said before, you know, killing the 3 organs, going into the mouth of the god of the depths, going into an absolutely bullshit dungeon.
Is that the one that's called the Gauntlet?
The Gauntlet, yeah.
Yeah, I read about it, yeah. I read the guide that was like, it basically said like, here's what we suggest you do. There's an ability that lets you jump ahead 3 spaces or some shit like that.
No, that's crazy.
At like the cost of your mind, of course. And they were like, this is the only way that we think this is not bullshit to do it. So get this ability, because apparently there's like, you know, real-time traps or some shit in there.
Yeah. There's like spike floors that are moving in patterns that you have to navigate, and it's like it's all a fucking nightmare. They love to prank you to death. They have a guillotine, like the pit and the pendulum blade that just swings back and forth, and if you hit it, you just get cut in half. And it was like that was how my first attempt at it ended, was just getting cut in half and having my upper body crawl around for another 30 seconds before succumbing.
Is there anywhere to save? Like, I guess if you have a scroll you can save, but like, is there any, because that was the thing in the Void where I was like, this sucks so bad. There was no save. Like I had to fight Francois again after the dinosaurs killed me because there's no opportunity to save and I didn't have any more scrolls. Whereas like sometimes the game takes it a little bit too far with that.
Yeah, there is no saving options in either of those late dungeons.
Yeah.
Why would there be? Why start now? Books of Enlightenment definitely came in clutch personally for that. And then also, you know the Crow Mauler. You love the Crow Mauler. What if there is a double Crow Mauler? With 2 heads. With
2 heads, okay.
That both can do an instant kill attack. just absolute comedy, fuck you. Like, you piece of shit. I can't even be mad.
Yeah, it's such horse shit that all you can do is laugh. Yeah. I remember reading, because I was reading the walkthrough. And the walkthrough that I was reading was really good. It has these different, like, you know, choose your adventure style. Like, if you're going for this ending, click this. And we'll take you through this. And so I read the page for the Gauntlet and I was like, that sounds like the worst. Even if I didn't do what it takes to get there, it sounds terrible. So which of these walkthrough things has the least amount of text? That's probably the one that's going to let me beat the game first. And it was the one, it was the new God ending. So
it's the White Palace from Hollow Knight.
I also skipped that in Hollow Knight.
A fine choice.
Yeah. Whew. So there's a lot of story stuff that we haven't talked about really at all yet.
It is amazing. We've been talking for 3 hours and we have honestly gone into specifics very little.
Yeah. Part of that is because I wrote down my story notes from that one cutscene, but I really don't know a whole lot. So like my contribution to story talk on the podcast would be just reciting things you could read elsewhere,
Yeah.
which is not my preferred way to do it. So like, is there like a cool story? Like, is there like a cool, like, I was wondering, like, what thematically, what is Fear and Hunger's story about? And one of the things that I gathered was that trying to become a god sucks. The new gods, they suck. Immortality sucks. That's all very late game stuff. Was there anything else, like, as far as like thematic stuff that you gathered from the story?
Both of the games are basically about like these major inflection points in human history, and the people who are caught up in it who don't realize like that they're in the middle of like, you know, this pivotal moment.
Right. And that was what happened with my character at the end of my ending, is basically deciding the course of human history, even though you don't know you're doing it at the time.
And so like answering the question of like what the canonical ending of Fear and Hunger is a nearly impossible knot. It's one of those things where all of the endings are kind of simultaneously true, kind of. But like the birth of the god of Fear and Hunger, like the girl who is, you know, this child of destiny who's already part divine, going into this crucible of an ancient god, like fusing with these energies, and then having her life experience of basically never knowing anything other than the dungeons of Fear and Hunger. Like this, she was born and raised in the dungeons. That is all she has known, and therefore she becomes this god of Fear and Hunger. And like part of like the grand thematic point is that like these gods are not good and evil on traditional axes. You know, they are just they are these just fundamental forces of the world. And as a result, like it starts out with these gods of nature. And then now as humankind is continuing to evolve, like we are creating our own things. So it started with Almer, you know, this Christ figure being like the first, like, I am a human who is representing human interests. And now we've got like this other new extremely powerful god, because the god of Fear and Hunger is like beyond any of the new gods. This is like a new fundamental force of nature, basically. And it's not good, but it also is like the impetus for evolution and change. The creation of the god of Fear and Hunger sparks the new age of the world, ushers in the Industrial Revolution and all of the horrors that comes with that. But also is like this huge inflection point in humanity itself. And then Fear and Hunger 2 will be about it, like kind of a similarly pivotal moment, even though you don't realize it when you're in the middle of it.
Right. And so kind of along those lines of like inflection points throughout history and how your characters play into it, there are a couple of the characters, at least like the playable characters, that come to the dungeons for like very simple reasons and then get involved in basically changing the course of human history without knowing it. My character came to the dungeon just to try and make money to support his family. It was just like a mercenary job, basically. I wrote down from that cutscene that Lagarde came to the dungeon to try to become a god himself. So maybe less simple ambitions on his parts. The Outlander came to the dungeon to try and find something that like was stolen from his country or something like that. Yes. I think
so. Lagarde went to his country, and
it was Lagarde that did it.
Yes, and his knights, you know, raided and pillaged in search for the Cube of the Depths, which was the key to the ancient city. So it was like that slaughter was necessary for Lagarde to put himself in the position to ascend, basically.
Right. And then the knight character came to the dungeon just to find Legard. That's her purpose for being there.
She is in love with Legard and is just wholly loyal to him, and is not more complicated than that.
Yep. So these people coming to and then the Dark Priest wanted to be sacrificed, but then had a change of heart and decided to go in himself.
Basically, he got a vision of Legard ascending to become something, more powerful, and he was like, "Not on my watch." It's like a pretty petty reason to go. He's just like, this guy seems like he sucks. I'm gonna go kick his ass.
So most of them have pretty simple reasons for going, and then they get wrapped up in things much, much bigger than you could have ever imagined. So it's like the story, from what I understand, is cool. It's just that Emergent story is my favorite part. It's going to be the thing that I remember the most. Yeah. But I'll try and keep that hard narrative stuff in mind when going into Fear and Hunger 2.
Mm-hmm. And also, as we are wrapping up, warning, going into Fear and Hunger 2, playing Fear and Hunger 1 will not have helped you that much. Okay. It's a real, people playing Bloodborne and being like, I played Dark Souls, and then just getting their ass kicked 6 ways to Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'll
keep that in mind.
It is going to demand different things of you, and it is going to prank you to death all over again.
Okay. Well, one of these days I'll be ready for it, and I will be sure to hit you up when I'm jumping into that too. But,
hell yeah.
For today, this has been a real Tales from the Backlog 3-hour special. Now we're at that time, at least in the recording room. So Adam, I appreciate you taking all the time and going through the experience of, number one, helping me get through the game, but also going through the experience of discussing it with me. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so thrilled that you chose to take a swing on a game like this. Mm-hmm. Again, it's the most qualified recommendation I can make. And I know that you didn't love it the way that I did, but you do have such an appreciation for it that it was really delightful to be on, as always.
Yeah, definitely. It's not a hard game to appreciate, I don't think. It's just to what degree is it really going to hook you and pull you in? So maybe the second one, maybe I know you said that it's not going to fully, it's not like you played Fear and Hunger 1, so you're just going to jump into Fear and Hunger 2 and be like, I know what's up. But the mindset, stuff like that, I'm sure some stuff transfers over. I'm going to tell myself that at least. So, So thank you again for coming and doing this with me. Thank you to everyone who's still here with us at the end. And a reminder to check down in the show notes to check out the good stuff that Adam is making, whether it be board games, tabletop games, or video games. If you're here, you like video games. I know why you're here. So please consider checking that stuff out. And as always, if you're here at the end, you're my hero. Tune in next week for the next game to come out of the backlog.
In every shadow, a story waits to be told. I'm Hen Pie, and my YouTube channel is a journey into the haunting worlds of Soulsborne, Lovecraftian, and dark atmospheric games. Not just gameplay, but reflections, lore unraveled, dreams and nightmares explored. If you crave the mystery beyond the fog, step into the journey. Find me at youtube.com @ihenpie, or simply search ihenpie on YouTube, and I'll meet you beyond the veil.
Hey, you there! This is Nomad speaking. If you love retro video games and you're itching for some nostalgia, check out the Retro Wildlands podcast. In each episode, I'll use game music and sound to pull you into the gaming experience while I share my own thoughts and maybe a few memories. It's a great way to relive one of your favorite games or learn about a new one. Check out the Retro Wildlands podcast at superpodnetwork.com or wherever you listen to your podcast.